welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a Flat Earth Debate member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to John Travolta, JMels24, my anonymous contributor, Yuya Nemento, M, Iron26, Eric Troche, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Case, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Google and Gilded so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I guess it was just you and me.
Was just what?
Just you and me. I asked you last time, so what you do this weekend? Or over the weekend, or I don't know. Something. I'm trying to make small talk, I guess.
I revised the tent a little bit. I ended up putting the dome piece on the tent because it got a little chilly last week. What else did I do?
Watch any YouTube?
Yeah, a while ago I was watching the 1737 FED episode.
What about QB show? You had a surprisingly late show yesterday.
I'm
Like
sorry to interrupt, guys. Can I just get a hello from John? Refracted curvature, John. Clearly not. Carry on. I'll test the sound for G Plus when someone else joins because he's dropped.
Okay. Well, did you catch the QE show yesterday evening? It was like late. Nathan
Negative.
managed to snip a clip out of it. He snipped a clip out of it this, I don't know, sometime. I seen it. It was interesting because it was just QE on himself, right? And he was just watching a Jeranism video, right? And it looked like he was trying to do like a logical fallacy count, right? As he was going through it, as he was scrubbing through it. And what I found interesting about it was QE, because he was just on himself, and the way he just watched the video and he just focused on the logical fallacies. I thought that was like interesting. That was like a different QE.
I thought it was
Like
excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I woke up to that this morning, watched all of it, all the way through, and I agree. I was quite surprised at how QE held his own on his own. Not that you wouldn't expect him to, but obviously, like you say, it was unfamiliar. But he did really, really well, and it was very entertaining. Yeah. Can I just get a hello from the guys in G+? Sorry.
Hello, check 1 2.
Thank Jesus. Great, we can hear you. Carry on.
Okay, well, I just came on. You said, can I get a hello from G+?
It all seems to be working. Looks good.
Wonderful. I was praying for you.
We get a hello from John. See if his mic's working. No. Well, I'm happy. Working G+ is good enough for me. Yeah, QE did really well. So it was a good reaction video. Just regardless of the content, regardless of my actual involvement in the content, I just thought it was good the way he presented himself, the way he went through it. It was like watching any other good YouTuber do a reaction video. You know, it's just good. Yeah, QE's really coming into his own as a YouTuber. Forget about the content itself and how valid it is. Just as a YouTuber, I thought he was really good.
All right.
I saw a little short
Well, I watched.
that you did today.
That short was an advert for QE's show.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't able to watch it last night, but I saw your short today. The advert, and pretty pathetic on their part. QE spotted it.
Morning, all.
Oh, brilliant. You're working too. That's good to know. Let's get a bit of a sound check from you, John.
Yeah, sure. I'll talk for about a minute or so, just making rambling noises and such.
Sounds good to me. I'm just leveling you up now, actually. Carry on, Righteous, because you're quite useful. You've got a very middle-of-the-road, neutral volume and such like.
Carry on. Well, I'll say morning to 10th Man. I forgot to say morning to him.
Good morning.
And yeah. How's that?
It's you with the hiss. You're the one with the hiss. There's a hiss in your preamp. It's good to have the nice, the studio back, be able to pick out tiny little imperfections in people's preamplifiers.
Righteous, quick, turn off your fan. Boiled to death.
Hiya guys, welcome back, Nathan.
Hey, one deck.
One deck.
It's definitely preamp hiss. I know preamp hiss when I hear it.
Oh my gosh. Probably for the first time, you're the only guy twice that would say preamp hiss. No one else in the world would say that.
Preamp hiss?
I used to do preamp hissing before I go to the bar.
Let's
Too
not
many puns off that one.
rearrange the gaps in those words. Come on.
John, you're becoming a regular punster.
I tried not to. I avoided it for the longest time.
Yeah, but I remember your first time when you congratulated yourself when you did it. It was great.
Was you paying attention to the underneath the QE show and the comments, or what is that called, the live feed?
Chat?
The chat.
What?
Yes, if you're referring to QE's show yesterday, as I was watching it this morning, I had the chat feed, obviously no longer live, but the live chat feed running next to it so I could read what people had to say as the show was progressing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Witsit called me a liar because I heard him say that electrostatics are constant. So he said that he never said that. So I said, so you're saying that down is caused by electrostatics, but electrostatics aren't constant, so down isn't constant? Witsit? And like, he freaked out on me. Just absolutely freaked out on me. Calling me a liar.
I don't get where the personal
What's up?
attacks are coming from. So what I did notice was several people, including Eli, when he gets here, I'll commend him, but he was in the chat going, or echoing the sentiment that QE had made earlier on in the stream. So I don't think Eli was in the chat when QE made this point. Let's try and be concise about who we're talking about. So QE's like, there are no winners and losers in this. This isn't about being on a side that wins. This isn't like, yay, go Jeran, or yay, go Nathan, or yay, go Ether. It's not about that. It's about what is demonstrably showable, what's provable. That's what it's about. Nothing about who's a winner or a loser and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, about an hour later in the chat, Eli was echoing exactly that sentiment. And I believe QE even pulled him when he had a little break and went to Eli's comment. Was like, yeah, I said that earlier. This isn't about winners and losers. It's just about what's right and what isn't. And when we talk about empirical evidence from science, it's a very binary explanation at the end if the process has been fulfilled. It's not a discussion point. It's not an argument point. It's not a agree disagree. It's empirical. So it's not we win because science does actually prove things. No, just science does actually prove things. And I'm not using science in the context of it being a thing that can do things. I'm talking about, and this is something I am failing in that I noted from QE's stream, he constantly highlighted the fact that when saying science, we're talking contextually in the environment that we work in, which is flat earth debate, therefore natural science, the science of the physical and natural world. Now, for me, it goes without saying, and infrequently I will pepper in that explanation that we're talking about cause and effect relationships, describing and explaining, and then having a phenomena to put into the method to come up with the cause of the effect. That's the science that I mean when I say science, because that's the context that we sit in always without exception. Whereas QE, like I say in his stream, was quick to point out that if you just say science proves, which I've put quotes around many times, my inference is science being the scientific method, as opposed to science, the reified version of it, which was pulled up as a fallacy by QE when contextually incorrect, used almost the same way by Jeran. I just wanted to drop that in.
Well, if pseudoscience is something that is falsely called science that does not adhere to the scientific method, then we got like a lot of problems with our society. Not like ether believers are the least of it, you know?
That's correct. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Neil. Hello, Arwin.
Yeah, I agree with John and you and QE. But anyone who's a listener to our show knows we're talking about the physical natural world, and we're always referencing cause and effect. And for cause and effect, we have the scientific method. I mean, it's not as if someone could listen to our show and not realize that's a tight window we keep it in. But as everyone has already said and commented on, the world itself uses science, because they've hijacked it, to mean everything. And this is how they get their agendas passed, and they lie to the public about just about everything. And it's your show that makes the differential of that word without the context of the scientific method. There's no other show that on the internet, no other flat earth show that I know of that takes the time and is specifically so pedantic about it, hyper specific, to make sure that's what we're talking about. That's how you prove things, and it's empirical. There's no bias. It's a method. So for someone, in fact, let me just say it. When they say, and I mean Jeran, Whitsitt, Bob, and all those people there, when they hear the word science, they think of pseudoscience. So they're attacking us. They should know better. We stand out against that.
What makes you think they'll know better? Nathan went there 4 years ago without any success. They're doubling and tripling down.
No, you missed my point. My point is they know better. But since they have a bias and they need pseudoscience, they don't like it.
Correct.
Well,
I agree.
I noticed that I kept getting asked to scientifically prove atoms. Does anybody notice what's wrong with the phrasing of that question?
Well, it's not a cause and effect relationship. It's asking you to prove a convention used to describe something. So you might be able to describe a phenomena and use that convention of atoms to do it. But you're not asking, what's the cause of this effect? You're asking a what is question. Well, that's outside the purview of science. Also, I might add that in terms of the 4 years that Neil mentioned earlier, going on from what 10th just said, it's been 7 years. QE pointed that out too. So, as a follower of Cathexis' channel, referring to Jeranism specifically, you'd know that every time I entered into discussion about science, I gave the don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and understand that the people who are hijacking the terms of science, stolen valor, are the pseudoscientists. So, anthropology, paleontology, archaeology, and all the things we ask in the housekeeping question when we ask for any scientific evidence from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, along with a whole bunch of others. Well, these are the people who will use the words of science, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, when they're not peddling it. Anyway, carry on, John. Sorry.
Yeah,
Stole
but
your thunder a bit.
didn't chocolate? Hold on, didn't chocolate post something about that? How out of one side of their mouth they're saying one thing, but they're using it and not even realizing that they're talking about photons and atoms and all this other stuff.
Maybe.
Yes, Neil. The convention that we use to describe the smallest form of particle, they're using after they deny they exist. Yes.
With that tool that they use, right? Some sort of tool that's supposed to measure the ether.
What the oh man, what is that thing called?
Listen,
No,
science
it's
proved it for
not
hundreds of
measuring
years.
ether. It's a particle accelerator.
Van de Graaff generator.
Yes. But,
Bob
but
claims he
particles
has a
don't
tool.
exist.
I'm sorry.
Just let John make his point.
Right. The particle that they deny exists in the beginning of the conversation, they fall back on to talk about molecular bonds, which molecules are made up of atoms, you know. It's kind of a cluster screw. Because they try to oppose everything through the logic gate of the scientific method and say that if you don't have science for atoms, then atoms don't exist. And then they'll say they can discount that, but they'll reintroduce it later. It's insanity.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Arwin, Chocolate Saying, the Adam Meekin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
What a miracle. Thank
Good
God.
afternoon.
That's
Good
me.
morning. Good
Hey.
morning.
Hey, howdy, howdy.
Yo.
My apologies for the
Everyone.
flashing camera, so I'm pretty sure that's because there's an extension lead going from the motherboard on my new computer to the outside of the case and then the lead to the camera, and I think that extension wire is causing it to flicker and flash, so I'll have to buy a new powered extension USB cable to stop that from happening. But other than that, new computer, it's working. Well, hey, really very pleased about that. It's been a stressful morning trying to get everything ironed out just to get the show running. There's loads of issues, but it's functionally great. It's working, which is all that matters, and I'm very pleased about that. So let's do a bit of housekeeping to celebrate. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Nah.
I'm being told that the horizon's not very a good place to determine these things anymore.
They claim the horizon is the curve of the Earth. Not a good place to
Oh.
determine it. They claim it is it.
I know, right? They seem confused, Nathan. It's like they forgot what happened a couple years ago.
They forgot that they told us that it wasn't expected to be seen, wouldn't ever be seen, can't be seen unless there's no atmosphere, and only exists in the maths, in spite of what they're claiming boats and buildings are behind and falling over. Yeah, they do seem confused. You're right, Creation Bear.
It was nice when they had a positive claim to make, wasn't it?
What, that the horizon was Earth curve and boats fell over it?
Yeah, back in, you remember, it was pre 2020.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
you
thanks.
can't blame them, right? It was much easier when they could just point at the horizon and say, "Look, that's the Earth curve." But now, apparently, now there's a different horizon. There's an apparent one, and one that we don't see. So that's a hell of a switch.
So just before we move on with
Even though
housekeeping, if you can from the chat, if you can just tell me if everyone's levels are roughly equal, because I can't monitor this at the moment. I will after the show's finished. But for now, everything's been reset, so hopefully it's not terribly uneven. And if one channel, i.e. if Discord or not Discord, if Gilded or G Plus or me are louder than one or the other, can you just let me know from chat? Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
So you're
Well,
willing
my
to give
latest
them the
thing,
radius?
Nathan.
John first. Hold on, Creation
Which
Bear.
access?
Hold on, Arwin. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say you're willing to give them the radius and that it's a non-inertial turning reference frame. All they got to do is prove Coriolis.
I ask for any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety. That is to prove that the Earth is on an axis rotating, which is their claim. Now, you're saying I'm giving them that. Well, I'm giving them that they claim it. I'm not giving them that it exists or that they've got an axis to rotate about. I'm saying, is there any evidence of that? I understand it is their claim, though.
But if
Stars
they claim
rotate.
Coriolis, would you point that out that they need those two things first? Or would you talk about how there is no Coriolis?
When you say there is no Coriolis, there's no Earth-based Coriolis. Earth's not turning underneath anything to observe not actual deflection at 15 degrees an hour, as is claimed. And it is claimed to be Coriolis effect of the Earth-based variety. So when you say, are they going to demonstrate those points, but that's their positive assertion for them to prove.
But if we're going to assume that they have an axis, then in the previous question, is there any evidence of a physical sphere edge formerly known as the curve of the Earth? That would have to be currently known as the curve of the Earth, not formerly.
Here it's
And it would also have to be proven.
We say formally known as the curve of the Earth because when people come here and oppose us, or at least when we had Discord as a server rather than Gilded, they would come and say things like Creation Bear pointed out. In their confused rhetoric, they'd tell us that we wouldn't expect to see a geometric horizon. That's Earth curve. Or nobody's expecting to see physical geometric horizons. Those are Earth curve. That's what they'd tell us. So formerly known as Earth curve is because they don't call it Earth curve anymore when they come here. But it is very much part of the Earth curve rhetoric that the horizon is their Earth curve.
Oh yeah, can I just say so? I think another thing they say is regarding like the equinoxes being on a certain date is something to do with the axis and the Earth turning, but that's not correct because supposedly the equinox, the autumn equinox was on the 23rd, but it doesn't always fall on that date. Sometimes it's some days later. It could be 5 days later if you look at sunrise and sunset time. So that pushes their theory of that right out the window.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the rotation, I've recently picked up a new hobby. Some people like to wake up in the morning and get a few minutes of meditation in. I'm doing actually this meditation on the rotation. So I've dubbed it rotation. So I get up in the morning and I just try to hone in on the Earth rotation, but haven't got it yet. But I'll keep working on it.
You're almost there, man. Keep at it.
Any evidence of the R value? That'd be Earth radius.
R?
Yeah, R.
Nah. What? and R they don't trust anymore. Would that be the same R that they told us is the radius of the Earth, 3959 miles? But then when we said, hey, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, and then they would stop us and tell us that's a straw man. So which one are we talking about?
The belief in radius, in R you trust, is obviously still viable. You can still trust in R. You just can't measure it or demonstrate it. And we've debunked it. So belief is a prerequisite now for R. You must believe in it if you're going to be a globe Earth believer, because it's not demonstrated, proven, measured, scientifically validated. Not that it's a cause and effect relationship. So yeah, you require belief in R, but that just is an acknowledgement that it's a religion.
Well, hold on a second. It's not agree, disagree anymore, though.
No, we've
Belief is
debunked
agree,
it.
disagree.
I agree, we've debunked it, but you can still believe in things that have been debunked.
You can agree with things that are disagreeable.
You can believe in things that have been demonstrated incorrect. You can still have faith in them. You can still believe in them. Doesn't mean they're real. They're definitely still shown to be incorrect. We've debunked R.
So, like, if I believe in green is red, is that a belief?
As a colourblind, red-green colourblind person, that's not a good example.
I was just going to say that might not be the best.
I know what you're driving at, though, without being pedantic. You're saying that if I prove to you that white isn't in fact black, are you entitled to still believe that white is in fact black after it's been shown not to be the case? Everyone's entitled to their beliefs. So I'm not going to tell anybody, no, you're not allowed to believe that. You can believe whatever you like. It's just when you present it to me as though it's evidence and I take it apart for an audience, then you can go away and carry on believing it, but no one else will. Well, they're entitled to as well, obviously.
But what I'm
Plus,
saying, though, is if you take something...
all the evidence of the R value will always lead you back to a flat baseline elevation angle. All instances.
Yeah, it will.
Well, what I'm saying, though, is belief is an agree, disagree proposition. You either agree with it or disagree with it, right?
Yeah, but the it doesn't have to be validated, but that may not be your point. Go on.
Well, the it does not need to be validated, but if the it's proven false, it's not agree, disagree anymore. It's not a matter of belief. It's a matter of delusion at that point.
Depending on your perspective, yes. From your perspective, when you look at somebody who's shown something demonstrably wrong and they go ahead and believe it anyway, then that's insanity. What else are you going to call it? What did you use? What was the word?
Willing ignorance would be a good word.
Delusional. It's just
Delusion.
delusional.
Yeah, it's delusional. I agree. But that doesn't mean that they won't or can't or are not permitted or don't have permission to believe something shown to be demonstrably wrong. People are entitled to believe whatever they like, right or wrong. As it was
I
mentioned,
will agree to disagree with that proposition.
I don't agree. Meanwhile, as it was just brought up, any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
How do you define an angle?
Two straight lines meeting at a vertex.
So if they said they agree to disagree with that, would that be an acceptable worldview?
It's obviously going to become debatable when someone says, no, a curved line can meet a straight line at a vertex. In other words, they don't actually address the question and describe something that's technically accurate but isn't an angle. I mean, but that's just deceitful as opposed to believing in something shown to be demonstrably incorrect. Or have we moved on from that, John?
I'm just picking on you.
That's okay. We're all friends here. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Hang on.
Oh, okay.
Just-
More elevation angle. I'm surprised you very rarely got anything to say on this subject, Tenth.
Not at all. I want to comment on John's point because I had to step out, take care of two grandkids there. So I just got back. What I'm picking up from John is we have conventions, and those conventions everyone worldwide agrees on for the most part. For example, the color white, the color black. I'm not talking about shades of each. I'm talking about just black and white. Okay, so no one hold me down here. Or purple, or blue, or yellow, or red. If we run into a civilization somewhere on an island that calls those colors something else, they have a convention. And we start breaking down the language, and we say, pass me that black container. And they pass you a white container. You say, no, I asked for the black. You say, well, I gave you the black. This is black in our culture. So what John is saying is that when there's agreed upon convention that could change, it's not actual, how can I put it? It's a belief, it's a agree, disagree. But when he's contrasting that silently to a method empirically to prove something, cause and effect, that is not an agree or disagree anymore. Is that where you were going, John?
Well, it was I guess the first step of it, like when you said red, right? Like you could say red is a convention, but when you start talking about the diffraction grading of the color red, it's no longer a convention. That's how you determine that is what everyone sees. Now there's people that don't.
Oh, we lost John. Or have I lost an internet connection? Can you hear me in Discord?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just John. Now we find out who was listening up until that point to John. Me, I was distracted with other things, which is why I'm going to highlight that you lot weren't listening.
I was listening.
All right, well, you can carry on. Or I'll move on with a different housekeeping question, Neil. It's up to you.
I don't think Guild can hear him.
That's not what I'm assessing. We were talking to 10th about that elevation angle. Do you want? Am I okay to move on, 10th? Well, isn't this wonderful? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Negative.
What?
I need to. You need to remind me, Eli, to give you a bit of commendation for some of your chat remarks yesterday evening for me. This morning for you.
Nathan,
I don't know what
there's a problem here.
there is. What?
Time out.
You what, Neil?
Yeah, the way.
I don't think
No,
John's
you can't
hearing
hear
you,
10.
Nathan.
You can't hear 10.
I can't hear 10th.
No.
Or John.
Oh, right. So they're talking, but I can't hear them. Oh, well, hopefully they'll drop and rejoin.
Right.
They'll have to drop and rejoin. Technical issues that are beyond me today. These aren't my fault. Anyway, we'll carry on with a bit of housekeeping. So, did we cover scientific evidence
What were
of
you
gravity?
going to say to me?
Are we going to get an answer, or what's going on?
I have no idea. Okay, next question.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. The other Neil, deGrasse Tyson. Much obliged. Any single viable
I don't
hypothesis?
think Eli could hear you either.
Hold on. Refracted, can you hear us?
No.
Yeah, I had to drop and rejoin. Any of you guys that can hear me that can't hear Nathan, drop and rejoin.
No, we can't hear anything from John whatsoever. I don't know what the problem is. I'm only joking, John. We can hear you. Anyway, let's just carry on. If there's a continued technical issue in G+, I'll have to drop and rejoin. Should I just do that anyway?
Can you hear Eli? Because he was talking.
all
He's
good.
asking you.
Mm.
He's asking you what you had to say about him.
Oh, well, I said we'd come to that later. Can you not hear me, Eli?
Yeah, be
Yeah, I hear
patient,
you.
Eli.
Okay.
Check 1, 2. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you. Everything's okay. I won't bother dropping and rejoining.
Carry on.
Carry on. Yes,
Neil,
indeed.
can you hear Nathan?
Everyone can hear everyone. Right. It's all good.
What a computer.
You know,
Oh
that's
my
what it's like
God.
when you talk to Globers, though. Like, they're just not hearing you. It's
You're
kind of
right.
the same effect.
Yeah, pretend you're not hearing. I know you're not doing that. Anyway, let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? As we were talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson, or Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking to us about not having scientific evidence of gravity.
Well, I was told that it's science. Just because you can't put something through the scientific method, it doesn't mean that it's not science. Everything is science when you're looking to increase knowledge or find things out. This is where we're at today.
That's a definition of pseudoscience, though, Neil.
That's what I'm saying. It's everything is pseudoscience today. So we're standing for science and we're getting attacked from every angle.
No, be fair. The science, if they take it to mean knowledge, you can have knowledge about lots of things. The scientific method is totally different. It's a study of cause and effect. My goodness, not that difficult.
Yeah, so you can't do that with the heavenly bodies.
Correct. There's lots of things you can't do the scientific method with. Number one, it's got to be naturally occurring in nature. Can't have two balls in a shed and said, "Oh, that's happening in nature."
But they still think they're doing science.
No, they're misusing the term knowledge.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, when you term science to mean knowledge, I guess you're technically correct as the root of the word, but that's not, like science in today's world is things proven empirically through the scientific method. And that's what everyone expects from science, for it to be empirically true.
Correct.
Natural science.
Natural science, you said, right?
Yes, sure.
But see, that's the thing, though. Like, when you say science, that's where everyone goes to, is that empirical method. It's proven.
I don't
This
think
is
so,
what it is.
John.
Now,
No,
there's people.
John's got a point here, because when you do, that's how they got away with everything, by hijacking that word. So John is correct.
We move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
It's in the sky.
You can measure an angle to it.
It burns my skin.
Let's try that once more. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Negative.
You can measure an angle to it.
And that's going to give you the distance?
No, but if you ignore the flat plane you just used and insert an R value, you'll get a constancy to its position relative to you.
What would make you get an R value from a flat plane? Why would you do that?
They got a foldable tangent plane chocolate they take with them all the time.
They just keep it in their trench coat. So one side is the foldable tangent plane, other side is the geometric horizon. Oh wait, that's my coat.
Well, do you remember when ballers used to take oranges and cut the top off and make a flat plane on top of the orange?
Yes.
And then they would assert that the horizon is actually the geometric point of that orange. And they were just trying to say that if you made the sphere big enough, it would seem flat, and that your eye to that tangent point would, follow certain rules. And
in
everything
that
would be.
description, it's not to a tangent point. You're saying that they're drawing a chord line through the spherical surface, and with whatever radius value they determine, see Brian's logic video in terms of the baller's hijacking of the circle. But with whatever value they ascribe, they are literally slicing the top of the sphere off to give you that flat plane. But there's no tangent further to that. That is what they call a tangent plane. It's just inaccurate, because what their tangent plane is a flat horizontal with you stood at the top of the ball running parallel with the flat plane running through the equatorial line.
Well, no, it's actually two contradictory positions. One is that the horizon's the tangent point, and the other is that at your feet is the tangent point, and you use both, but then you just turn it into a flat plane.
Shout out to Unitox Femu, who says, "Dear Gravity, thank you for keeping food on my table, or on the table. Amen." Thank you, Sasha.
Do
you think once the choir boy is done, do you think do you, do you think they went to the orange because they needed to get some skin in the argument?
Oh, good one.
You know what's funny about that orange thing? You say ballers used to bring that up, right? Well, remember the thing I read out from the textbook of the kids textbook, the science textbook, where I was
Yeah.
talking about
Yep.
yeah. This is what they say in one of the paragraphs. A globe, well, it's titled globes. A globe is a model of the planet Earth. Because it is round like the Earth, a globe shows the correct shape of Earth's continents and bodies of water. A map can't do that. A map is flat. It distorts or changes the real shape of the continents and bodies of water on it. Don't believe it? Try this. Take an orange, carefully remove the peel. Once you've removed all of it, lay the peel on a flat surface and smooth it out. Now look at the orange it covered. See how the flat peel, which is like a map, is a different shape than the orange itself? End of citation.
But globes can't accurately portray the continents and bodies of water either.
What globe? The one they just told you currently or previously in the other article that you'd never see? Because this is the same citation that said, look out your window, what do you see? If you look out your window, you will see land for a distance that is flat. Maybe you might see a hill or mountain. You could probably make your own map of what you see, but what you don't see is anything round like a globe. So how were globes invented? More than 2,000 years ago, the Greeks used observation, which is underlined, skills, and math to figure out the shape and size of our planet. They invented globes, but it took hundreds more years before most people believed the Earth was round.
Well, there you go, chocolate. I told you, orange is the new black.
I don't know, Ted.
It's such
Sounds
a
like they got
fruity
caught with a
argument.
bloody glove instead.
Repeat that in Gilded.
Oh, I was just gonna make a joke about OJ's bloody glove.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Bruh.
Well, if you're going to be okay with turning a flat plane into a sphere and not being able to measure a radius and believing in a non-force force that you can think of as a force, but it's not a force, then a molten iron, self-perpetuating molten iron core is not the worst thing you can believe.
But is there any evidence that there is a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
It would be
They
cool
seem to
if it
be
wasn't,
swapping that
because
story out for an update here soon.
Dropping the story out again? I'm sure that story's
Yeah.
changed multiple times already, but go on.
No, I think last time we checked in, they were saying the core is super ionic. It's not solid. It's not liquid. It's super.
Right, it has the appearance of being fluid, but it's actually super ionic, where it's just energized because of the valence electrons are in disarray.
I think they're all
Appearance.
taking from chocolate. Chocolate coined the phrase super GP. Now they're putting super in front of everything.
Funny, man. Super and magic. Just
I
put
was going to
those
say
words
that.
in front of things.
Super magic. magic speeds.
Yep.
Any evidence that you
But
can go on?
I was gonna say, by the way, shout out to NASA that they're practicing their Armageddon again. Apparently, everybody knows Armageddon. Yeah, the movie.
Oh, they're going off to a
practicing that
rock.
again.
Oh wow, the big lies of flying out to rocks in sky vacuums that are coming to get us. It's the Armageddon plot.
Yeah, they're practicing their planetary defense. So they're gonna try to send something out to hit some asteroid, and make sure that works out. So next time we're in trouble, NASA got our back. Thanks, NASA.
You know, they talk about
58 million.
I was just about to say, do you know when they talk about pumping money into a black hole? Well, the sky vacuum is like the biggest black hole you could pump money into, isn't it? It's like, well, if we don't take steps now to prevent geological disaster, the ground in Narnia will collapse, killing everyone in Narnia. So we better pump an absolute fortune into terraforming Narnia, because, that's necessary for the benefit of the Narnia people. So let's pump 50 billion into it.
58 million a day.
58 million a day.
They got to be doing something, right? Because now, apparently, because of this hurricane, which we were gracefully told that 100% moved straight, thanks to Kosho. That's apparently on its way to the east coast of the United States. So they've had to take their Artemis rocket and put it away because that's precious and they can't let that get destroyed because that's supposed to be on its way to the moon. So they put that away. And then when I turn on like some news this morning, I hear about, we're practicing our Armageddon again. So I was like, oh, isn't that cute? NASA's staying busy for us. Thanks.
That's just like gym class. You normally play outdoors, then when it's raining, you go in the gym and play dodgeball.
Yep, game off.
I just want to make a quick audio note to myself as we're halfway through the live show. Thank you very much, everyone. There's over 100 people watching, which is fantastic. I'm going to turn the gain up. So typically in OBS, I have the gain maybe a couple of dB or a dB and a half below the maximum. And that was in the vain hope that it would stop the distortion that I've been chasing around. Now I've got a new computer, I'm going to turn it up. So this is the halfway point, half an hour into the show, just for my own reference. It's now getting turned up. So if you want to knock your volume down a couple of notches. Not you in the show, but the people who are watching, I've just turned it up. So it's now what I think is the reasonable limit before it should distort. So hopefully this will sound fantastic. Everyone's got a little bit more volume and it won't be as annoying when the adverts come in.
I want to comment on Chocolate's point about the asteroid and the practice sessions. Before they got to this point, they had to make sure Hollywood put out a few movies about it so they could precondition the world about it. Remember, in my day, I used to watch Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah, I remember Shatner talking about science being science fiction and vice versa, and he's right. And when people say it's predictive programming, they tell you what's going to happen. It's like, yeah, I can see the parallel, but independently, you could probably find that there was no connection to NASA with the story writers from Warner Brothers or whoever it was that came up with the plot of Armageddon. But the parallels are there because they're both reaching from the same source. That be the quote unquote science of space and the science fiction of space. It's like Red Dwarf is a good example. If you go through Red Dwarf and look at some of the plot points, they're pulled out of A Brief History of Time, like straight out of it. So it's not coincidence that you've got like parallel plot points, because it sort of logically will take the person who's coming up with the fiction to the same place that the person who's coming up with the fiction claimed to be real is going to go. And maybe they've taken inspiration from Armageddon in that regard. The two are feeding off each other because they both come from the same fictional place.
Well,
But if that,
go on, John.
I was going to say,
Quick shout out to in the chat, Lamel Forever. Yeah, yes, I do sometimes miss the planet we call Brooklyn. Shout out to you, brother.
well,
Sorry,
I was going to say, like, NASA does employ a lot of people, and is that necessarily a bad thing?
When
No.
you're lying to
Well,
people, yeah.
hang on.
Hello.
John, for the sake of the economy, keeping people employed, food on the table, is giving an argument for
No,
NASA.
but its argument expands out to more important aspects of what we're describing, because if we carte blanche say NASA are liars, and you walk around NASA all day with a NASA name tag and doing NASA things, and you're a very honest, hard-working family man, providing for your family, doing a good job at what you do at NASA, are we talking about that person? Well, unfortunately, yes, because you are part of the entity that is, as a whole, lying to everybody about the world that we live in. So, unfortunately, yes, you are going to get tarred with that brush because you're part of the problem. Now, your ignorance may be a reasonable excuse. I had no idea I was lying to you about space. All I did was go into work. They told me to work on these UV or, I don't know, infrared images and put a bit of colour to them. I don't see how I was doing anything deceptive. I'm certainly not a fraudster. I just did what I was paid to do. I was trained to do it and employed to do it. And I did it. How is that in any way deceptive? It isn't. If you then go, well, what you were doing was colouring in space and presenting it in a colour spectrum that it isn't representative of, and the guy would reply, I disclaimed exactly that. That's what I'm paid to do. To bring to life some of these images from the James Webb Telescope. And you go, oh, right, okay. So is that guy a lying, deceitful, trying to fool you about the world guy? I would say no. And that's 99.9% of NASA employees. There's plausible deniability because none of them are doing anything that's directly connected to the heliocentric deception. They're doing it because that's what they're paid to do and are probably very good at doing it. So when you have people like that aren't being deceptive, you end up with guys like, I've forgotten his name now, but I'm sure someone will tell me his name, saying, it is photoshopped, but it has to be. No, he's not saying that in irony. He means it. Of course it's photoshopped. Yeah, I've got to take this data and turn it into something you can see, and that requires Photoshop to do it. I'm not deceiving anybody, would be his attitude and tone that he took when he answered. Right? But then you point out that, well, it's supposed to be a photograph. It's punted as a photograph, and it's not. It's your colourings in. You can spin it back towards them being deceptive again. But as far as your average Joe working for NASA, I'm going to say, or err on the side of no. These people aren't overtly lying to you. They're just going in and doing a good job. Does that mean that the overall entity that we call NASA is a truthful one? No, they're lying to you about the very nature of the world you live in, as a whole, as a machine.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful time to bring up the movie The Truman Show. In that movie, there was one guy being lied to, and everybody else was an actor. In this case, everyone thinks everyone is a Truman at NASA except those that know.
No, it's not comparable to... No. I'm not going to let that slide. It is definitely not comparable to Truman Show in that regard, because every single person under the dome in the Truman Show knows that it's not real, apart from Truman. So Truman's the only one who's under the misapprehension that the world he is presented with is the real world. All of the actors, all of the lighting riggers, all of the people behind the cameras, all of the people in the moon watching it all, they all are in on the gig. Now, NASA, by comparison, I would say almost nobody is in on the gig. They all genuinely go into work in the morning without a second thought for whether or not the space that they're painting is real or not. They know instinctually that it is.
That's what I just said. I just said what you said.
Well, okay, I didn't hear it that way, but fair enough.
Yeah, it's backwards because most of NASA people are really Jim Carrey and Truman. They think it's real. They think it's happening.
Well, okay. Well, now that we've established that 99.9% of these people aren't liars, are we justifiable in destroying their livelihood?
They're still liars.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Who's the guy with
There's
the
no
first?
way.
Is it Mr. Ponzi? The namesake of the Ponzi scheme. Yes, Nathan, it is Mr. Ponzi. Okay, well, Mr. Ponzi and his original Ponzi scheme, if he's got all sorts of people involved in that, are they all just, oh, well, they didn't know? No, it's still a Ponzi scheme that you're selling to somebody.
Is that Bernie Madoff?
Bernie
Yeah,
Madoff.
Bernie
Bernie Madoff. There you go. Bernie Madoff. He's a perfect example. You can't just say, well, people were too ignorant, so therefore not in any way responsible. It's like, no, everybody that went around flogging this stuff was just equally as responsible.
Yeah, but in that case, the name gave it away. Bernie Madoff.
So
He
everyone,
made off with
hold on.
everybody's money.
Did everyone get prosecuted, or did he?
Just him.
So not everyone was responsible then.
But you're asking a different
What?
question. You're
What?
saying, no, and that's not what I'm implying. Would it be reasonable to allow them to carry on the Ponzi scheme?
No, it wouldn't be reasonable
No.
because people were losing money, lots of money.
But is it reasonable by comparison? If you say, well, is it reasonable that you take away a livelihood of somebody in a fraudulent, deceptive industry when they're exposed as being fraudulent and deceptive? Is it reasonable that as a consequence of somebody building up and employing people within a fraudulent, lying company, that they lose their jobs? It's unfortunate.
I just wanted to make the distinction.
I think they should all lose their jobs. I'm sorry.
I don't think anybody should ever have to lose their jobs over something like this. And if I was an employee and I did lose my job at NASA as a result of the exposure of them being complete frauds and charlatans and lying to you about your world, I would be furious with my employer if I was that man. I wouldn't be infuriated by the person who exposed the lies that I was under when I was an employee of that company, if indeed I lost my job as a result.
Well, I was just saying that those people deserve sympathy as well.
They do.
Because
Yes. Sorry.
They deserve sympathy, but they also need to do something about it, seeing as that they were the closest to it.
But if
Correct.
they
Who's
believe
that?
it, hold on. No, they believe it, or they wouldn't be doing it. I mean, well, hold on. More than likely,
We're talking about
they're
if they
ignorant
were,
of it.
if they knew that it. Yeah, but we're talking about if they knew that, like, with the example we have now, like, if it's a scheme, do you keep up the scheme? So we're talking about people who are keeping up the scheme.
Right, the astronauts.
But-
So there's only a few handfuls of people that fit into the category of, no, these people knew they were lying. Astronauts are one of them.
So what about astrophysicists? Them too. What about that wakey
No.
guy that went to that girl?
No, they're-
that don't
She
count.
admitted, changed
That
the
don't
model.
count.
I don't think they count
No,
either.
they're
I agree
playing
with
in
Eli.
Narnia. They're playing in Narnia. They think it's real. You ever seen that game, like with the Windows 98 and all those early ones, where there's this game you can play where you just click the dots. Like I never understood how you do that without blowing up. Like, because it's like if you click the wrong one, it blows up. But there are like math
That's
nerds
Minesweeper.
that know that. Minecraft or something like that. Mine's. Did you just say it? Somebody?
Minesweeper.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what this is, and I hate this game. Other people see a whole story behind it. They know where to go, what not to press. Mathematically, it's just like me playing the Matrix on PlayStation.
Yeah, but he presented her with a few truths and she couldn't deny them. She even said, then you changed the model. So I'm sure she damn well knows that it's bull crap.
No, here
Neil.
I'll give a comparison to what we experienced with flat earthers. Is this woman has a logical framework of how the universe works in her mind, and she can change that logical framework according to certain rules and aspects, and she can do that without too much cognitive dissonance.
Well put.
That does not mean she is lying.
Correct.
In the same way that
Yeah.
the people that assert ether is logical framework, it doesn't mean that they're lying about it either.
Correct.
I was
Usually giving
watching
them a pass.
or listening to debates over the weekend, and it just seemed like a lot of the logic, like, cross, like there's a cross section, and I'm like, oh, there it goes again. There it goes again. And I think damn, man. Sorry. I should have started thinking I was going to be specific, but I can't even think of a specific example. Give me a second.
All right. Well, he's getting that. John's right. I hate to disagree with you, Neil, but you're wrong here, because remember when the radius of the Earth was so clearly proven wrong, and they said, well, it's just a little bit bigger then.
Yes, I remember.
Okay, so their
Just a
worldview.
bit outside.
So their worldview is we live on a globe, and we got the radius wrong. Big deal.
No,
Just-
no,
they
but
just
they
changed it.
can't. They can't do that
No,
because everything, all the stars in their rotation relies on that 3959, and they know that.
No. You know that. I know that. And they justify it. It's okay. It's just a few miles off. It's like not taking dip correction. We'll be a few miles off.
Where's Brian when you need him?
He would agree with me. You must do it to get a right angle from an obtuse, right? And so the whole point is that when you take one step out of it, the thing doesn't work right. But they okay if it doesn't work right. They're learning, but we do live on a globe. It's like Andrew Thomas Young saying all the refraction calculations came off of a flat plane, but the Earth isn't flat! Exclamation point. You see, they're stuck. It has to be a globe, even if they're wrong.
Just change the model, man.
Yeah,
They're all a
Make it-
bunch of bloody liars. I don't care what you say. They know.
That was the
No.
distinction that I was going to
No.
elaborate on from.
It's hard.
Just one sec. I was just going to elaborate on that from John's point, which is say with the example from the astrophysicist that Wakey interviewed, when you describe her as saying she can disconnect cognitively from the world she thinks is being represented by the logical framework. So while the logical framework may adjust, in her heart of hearts, she's describing the world she lives in with the logical framework, which may adjust with time. So therefore, my description of how the world works might be slightly off, but ultimately my description overall is that the world is a sphere, we're flying around the sun. But that is the logical framework reified. There's just a disconnect between the description of the world we live in and the world we live in. And any inaccuracies in the description, well, they're easily rectified. Doesn't change the cognitive disconnect that is the reification of that logical framework, aka model, into existence, and the disconnect of I see this as the world and how I describe it might just be a bit wrong.
Well said. But it's not just strictly a globe earther problem. It's flat earthers do it as well.
Hold on.
No,
I can accept
it's
this 7
it's an
years
everybody
ago.
problem. It's an everybody problem. And the reason is for exactly why I keep pointing out. It's actually the fallacious reasoning. Oh shit, oh golly, sorry, it's early, right?
That's right,
Oh
Eli.
snap, golly gee. What? How profound. No, I mean it is long. The thing is, people have been conditioned to accept flawed logic and problem solve using flawed logic, and we're just seeing extensions of that because they keep making the same kinds of mistakes regardless of the rhetoric, regardless of the story, regardless of what's happening. That's why we see it in politics. That's why we see a parallel between how the people on TV lie versus how people lie here, because actually their flawed reasoning is bringing them to that conclusion. It might be that they're not lying. Some of them to an, like, it gets to such an extent that there has to be so much cognitive pain that I, as a human being, can't believe that you don't feel the bells ringing off. But they still could be like really, really deceived. I don't know, because
That's what I'm
my family
saying.
members kind of sound like Xanax sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly my point. We've been at it for 7 years, some people longer. The word has gone out there. I'm sorry.
But I'm not
Yeah,
going to
but
accuse
it's not.
Elijah's family of being liars. I'm not
No.
going to do that. That's
Look,
ridiculous.
it's a human condition. And well done there, Eli, on your summary. It's a human condition, and some are more into it than others. And so there's this little switch called cognitive dissonance. And so when that switch kicks in, it has, wait a minute, you mean, wait a minute, I've been lied to? No. Okay, so this human condition prevents them from that logical framework that will show truth, and they just adjust it. They keep adjusting it and adjusting it. Now, why is Neil here? Why is Eli here? Why is John here? For some reason, by the grace of God, we said, wait a minute, there's something here. Maybe I've been lied to. We didn't fight it. We decided to search for truth. So the whole point is it's not everybody, it's individually, but as a mass, as Eli said, the politicians do it, even sports figures do it. You know, they take drugs and steroids they're not supposed to, and then they talk around it to get away from the penalty of it. I mean, hey, logical framework. The guy was, 189 pounds and 6'2", and now look at him, he's a beast. All that happened in 6 months. How does that happen? It's like you have to deny.
I see what
Right.
you're saying, because the TV, that don't help either. Because the other day it was new pictures of Saturn, and they're watching a football game. The guy's like, this guy's got a lower center of gravity, so he's hard to tackle. I mean, the words that they just throw out there and the images that they throw out there, they keep reifying this nonsense, and the world has accepted it. I guess she's all right.
It's sad because look, the center of gravity is an actual thing. It's actually an actual thing. Like the problem is they keep hijacking effects that happen in reality and calling it something else. Like the horizon, like you name it.
Yeah, but they don't mean it that way. This the guy said too, and then gravity takes over from here. Come on.
Yeah, but Neil, you got to understand, there's a group of people, entities, whatever, who know that they're lying, and they're counting on the next level below to not know that they're lying, but to spread the information. And they're all in academia, they're all in Hollywood, they're all in politics. And so the people below them, the citizenry of all the world, hears them. And it's like, we started to lie, let these people carry it on. They think it's real.
It's a big deception, man.
Okay. As we've got about 10 minutes left on this live stream, I want to do a special thank you, a shout out to Paul, who's actually on our Gilded server. He's on server mute at the moment, but I assume he's listening to the show via the YouTube feed. I've got a new computer, which was paid for in full by Paul. And he also allowed me, because originally I'd agreed to give him the GoFundMe funds towards the computer. But with all of the periphery that went along with getting the computer and a few other bits and bobs that I bought and pushed myself into overdraft buying, he's allowed me access to those funds to get little problems sorted out. And even today I spent several £100s on service work for this brand new computer to get it functioning and working so that we can have this live stream today. So at a personal cost of thousands of pounds, and I'm not even joking, Paul has facilitated this show going on for minimum 5 more years, probably 7 more years, with this brand new computer, which is absolutely top of the line, very, very, very quiet, and just the new heart and home of Flat Earth debate. So the old show kept me in a living for the best part of 7 years, or 5 years officially on YouTube as a full-time YouTuber. But that obviously is very good value for money out of the old computer, which was also top of the line when I bought it, as is this one. But I could have never have afforded to have done it, even with the contributions from people on GoFundMe. It would have been far more modest in terms of what I ended up with. So I've ended up with an absolutely glorious top of the line PC, which extends the longevity of it for the show for a considerable period of time. And I want to extend my personal thanks, not only to the people who initially contributed via GoFundMe, which, to be perfectly ruthless, has all been chewed up in wires, monitors, service work, and various other stuff that I've spent money on along the way, but mostly to Paul, who has, like I say, out of his own pocket, put thousands of pounds into getting Flat Earth Debate the best possible computer to run the show with. So if you can hear me, Paul, I know you're on server mute at the server deafened at the moment. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not only that, he put up with me moaning about the process of changing a computer, which is true for anybody. But all the stress and tears and anguish and general fuss that goes with swapping a complete system out, which is what I've managed to do thanks to Paul's and the GoFundMe supporters' help. He's put up with me moaning and running around to service people. He's even been chasing up the people who manufactured it and the person I got it serviced with. He's been basically an angel, like an angel sent from heaven to help Flat Earth debate. So my personal thanks to you, Paul. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that is echoed by all of the people on the panel.
Here, Paul.
Big
Well done.
Paul.
Nice one,
Yeah,
Paul.
and the poor guy was beating himself up Friday, saying he could have picked a better computer guy. Paul, you are ace. And how long do you know this guy, Nathan?
I don't.
10
I've never met
years?
Paul. I've known him for the duration of the time dealing with this computer only. And since then, obviously, we've become more friendly and shared various different information about other subjects, because he's come from a completely different subject line into this recently, into Flat Earth, that is, or in the last 6 months, say. So yeah, to me, and I don't mean this in an offensive way, he's a total stranger. He's a fan of the show who wanted to help when I did a GoFundMe for a computer, and I said, I want you to have this fantastic computer. I have ordered it for you. I'd like to say it just arrived and everything when as it is supposed to. It didn't. I'll probably get into that in a different show, maybe in tomorrow's pre-show. I'll go through the fuss and faff, because I don't necessarily want to badmouth the people who built it. There was some positive things to say about them, but mostly negative stuff to say about Inside Tech, the guys that built it. So, your old mother's adage, if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't necessarily say anything. But competitors of theirs helped more than they did. Let's put it that way. So yeah, it's one of those. But aside from that, the machine itself is what it is. It's a fantastic machine, and I am over the moon that it's now stress-free, because this was the last point of stress with 5 minutes left of the live show, and it's functioned in its entirety without any glitches. I don't know if the sound's good. Hopefully it's not crackling and distorting every so often like it was. But this is a functioning show again, and there was a period where I was despairing. I was like, I'm watching my career go, because I had no computer at one stage. The old one had been taken to pieces. The hard drive had been put in the new one. Therefore, as far as the show's concerned, the old black box is just a piece of junk. It can't function. And the new black box is not up and running yet. So I'm like, oh no, my living. But, and as I say, Paul put up with the crap. The same Flatsoid will relate, but from a slightly different perspective, because I gave him endless crap about the computer he was buying. I'm the most pain in the ass person to deal with when it comes to stuff like this. I am a total pain in the ass, and I know I am. I'm very demanding. I'm very awkward. I'm not very sympathetic. But, Paul had to deal with that from the reverse side, from me. And he's the guy who's being generous. He should be the last person to deal with that, but he did. So, I'm just reiterating what I'm saying because I'm so grateful. But anyway.
So it took a fan of the show to give you a computer with no fans.
Indeed, it has got fans.
First of all,
it has got fans. It's got 4 fans
from the whole FED panel as well.
Yes, thank you.
Exactly.
And the audience, I'm sure the audience are grateful. There's enough messages I got from people like, oh no, there was even a Skype group set up saying it sucks that there's no show. So, people are gutted when the show doesn't run. There's over nearly 120 people watching. There's people who want to be here watching this live show. And the fact that I had an aging computer that had a spill on it and then was repaired but with less memory, and then suddenly couldn't cope with the show. And then, again, part of the burning through the GoFundMe money was me getting excited and buying a new monitor before the computer arrived, which just stressed the old computer more. It made it worse. Well, now, with the new monitor and with the new computer and with everything cabled up correctly, with the exception of the camera, which I'll just sort out. That's something else. That's not a big concern, me having a flashing camera. But, with the exception of the camera, it's working. The show's back up, and this is glitch-free. This has been the smoothest the show has ever run. Hello, QE, by the way.
Before you round the show out,
I might go a bit further now. QE's come, actually. I might keep this live show going.
talk technics while he's there. There were just, if I could just, last week I showed a bit of Taboo Conspiracies video at the Mount Canaga. Well, he's done another one this week, and I just, before the show roundup, just for everyone, if they could go and watch it, I've put it in Master Beer, guys. If someone could stick it in the main chat. 10th, you should find this very interesting, and it's to do with magnetic declination. And there's a guy he's been on Globebusters in the past, but there's a guy that's done the job, sailed around the 60s in the World Yacht Race, and he's claiming there is no magnetic declination. Now, this is something that there's always been in my noggin, what is magnetic declination? I think we argued about compasses the other week. But he's claiming the whole purpose of magnetic declination is just to curve and stretch those southern sea routes. So it feels like you're curving and arcing more. And it's a good half-hour presentation, but I'd recommend it for anyone to look at. And I think it's something that's worth a chat later in the week, guys, because it's a very interesting approach to what declination is and why it was put in.
Yeah, I watched that, Adam. Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah.
I've put
I
a
think
link
he was
to
just stressing the point.
If you're in the chat,
really good.
If you're in the chat now, it's just gone in as a link. So Taboo Conspiracy Channel's video, if you're just listening to this audio only. No Magnetic Declination on the Flat Earth is the name of the video. And the channel is Taboo Conspiracy. It was formerly Taboo Conspiracy 3 because it's the third iteration of this channel, hence the I under the logo. But it's just renamed as Taboo Conspiracy now. Did I get a hello from QE?
Hello.
That's not as enthusiastic as I was possibly hoping.
I just
He was up all night
Good
streaming.
morning. Get some breakfast.
Yeah, I think that will be my cue to round out this live show, so it won't unfortunately continue. I might start another live show, so look out. There might be another live show that starts after this one if QE peps up a little bit. But with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream or Nathan Oakley premium streams after the fact for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Well, what I said was there's no sides. But also, yes, it's not about winning and losing.
Oh, forgot to mention that. Damn it. I meant to get that in the live show. I'm sorry, Eli. That was precisely what I was going to give you commendation for. So you joined that. I watched QE's show back in its entirety with the live stream up, and I noticed that you popped in about halfway through and started reiterating a point that QE had made earlier in the show. Obviously, you went around to hear him say it, but you were basically saying what he said verbatim in regards to there's no winners and losers in this Jeran and Nathan /FED thing that's going on. There's just who's right, who isn't. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, God, it's hard. It's hard to say, but and correct me if I'm wrong with it. You're my brother, fam. Like that's what it is. You're my brother. Now, I know that I told you the same thing. It's like I was talking as QE last night. You know what I mean? Because I was having the same conversation in Geo's server when Witsit brought up some of the critiques he did. And I was like, well, if you're talking to me, because he's like, oh, science doesn't prove things 100%. And I'm like, what is this percent thing we're talking about? It's either you're using the method correctly, which is I have a supposition as to what's causing a natural phenomena. That supposition is either right or wrong. Everything else outside of that is using the method incorrectly. Tell me what's wrong with the method. And, you know, and then it led to other critiques. And I was like, but fam, we're not going to really talk about
It's all
how
about the
heat is not
parameters,
the
Eli.
cause of boiling water. And it's like, well, there are other things. And I'm like, that would be called control variables, fam. You would create another hypothesis. The bottom line is, I'm like, I know you don't think that FED doesn't like agree with what you're saying, but you're putting it off as they're contradicting themselves, or they're lying. They're not actually knowing the difference between science and pseudoscience, and they're using conventions and reifying it like everybody else. And I'm like, how could you think that? Like, I'm here representing me, kind of representing us, but really representing me. I learned from you guys, and I'm just like, what's I get
Sounds like
that.
feelings.
Okay, Jeran, that's your boy, and that I get that part. But the part about the information, fam, like I said, my critiques was the same that QE did, and I was like, I didn't need QE to tell me that to know that those retorts were valid.
Right.
But still,
if you're listening, QE,
much love.
Very good stream.
I was giggling through most of it. It was really good.
It was very. Forget the content. Forget that it was about me and the guys on the panel and FED or you. Just as a YouTuber, you did an exceptionally good job. I was truly proud of how well you did as a YouTuber. That was very entertaining. Even when you were like, I'm going to go off for a break, I thought there'd be 5 minutes of silence. You talked to the chat. It was excellent.
And all that with a bad mic. All that with a bad mic.
I was just going to say that. It was substandard mic. Well, thank you for that. I thought I needed to do it, so I did it. So sorry about that, Adam.
I agree.
Nothing to sorry. It's just the unsociable hours. So I've got to play catch up. That's my only feedback, Monsieur.
I had a very amusing morning watching it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was hours of amusement while I was educating my kids, doing my general chores around the house with QE on in the background. I was chuckling away, same as John, every so often. Very good.
Thank you. You've got to play to the audience. Like, you're always playing to the Brits. Forget them. We like to come out at night. We like stuff at 11 o'clock, Come on.
Yeah, until you're 63.
Facts.
Anyway.
Yeah, Eli, you just got to realize that this world doesn't revolve around you, mate. It revolves around me.
Hey, Nathan, good time to play that short, that QE that you put out.
You mean the advert for QE's...
Yeah. Play it.
Okay. Just give me 30 seconds and I'll go and grab it.
I would just like to point out it's not a me-verse, it's a universe.
Okay. If you can pop yourselves on mute.
Concept of scientific proof. Scientific evidence is evidence that serves to either support or counter a scientific theory or hypothesis, but it does not provide
But it does not provide proof.
Scientific.
No, wait a second. No, it didn't say that. Such evidence is expected to be empirical evidence. That's proof and interpretable in accordance with the scientific method. But it does not provide proof. You're a fraud. You added that to the end of. Let's check it out.
scientific evidence. Concept of scientific proof. Scientific evidence is evidence that serves to either support or counter a scientific theory or hypothesis, but it does not provide
but it does not provide proof. No, wait a second. No, it didn't say that. You added that at the end. Let's listen to that again.
Scientific evidence. Concept of scientific proof. Scientific evidence is evidence that serves to either support or counter a scientific theory or hypothesis, but it does not provide
But it does not provide proof. You're a fraud. You added that to the end of. Let's check it out. It does not say that. Yep, here it is. Let's pull it up. Scientific evidence is evidence that serves to either support or counter a scientific theory or hypothesis. Then you said it doesn't prove anything. That's not what this says. It says It continues, although scientists also use evidence in other ways, such as when applying theories to practical problems, such evidence is expected to be empirical evidence. That's proof and interpretable in accordance with the scientific method. Why does it say methods? They're numpties. It doesn't say what you said. So you added that to that definition, right? Well, what is that? Is there a word for that? I'm sure somebody can think it up. See, same. It's the same thing. He just added that onto the end.
Maybe he got it from Darth.
Scammer.
There you go. There's my advert for you, Kiwi. You need a windsock on your microphone. Too many plosives.
I did it for you.
You didn't have a wind. Did what? Not have a pop filter on.
I got a pop filter on, but I got real close with the P's and the S's.
Oh, you have got a pop filter on. It's not working.
I've always had a pop filter on.
I use a do-rag.
Here, are you
Do-rag.
telling me you have to show the P and S waves on your microphone?
On the mic end or your face end?
I've got it over top of the mic.
I was talking to Eli.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said mic end or face end.
I don't know what that means.
He said I used a do-rag, so I said the mic end or your face end.
Oh, okay. Well, a do-rag is for your do, so it doesn't go on your face. It goes on your hair. But I use it as a windsock. But
Yeah,
Kiwi,
on your.
you might
Let's
need
try
to
one
take
more time.
the-
You use it as a windsock on your face or on the mic. My God.
Or on your
on the
foot.
mic, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, Kiwi just moved the pop filter away from the mic a little bit.
Never mind the content of what he said. We're going to get stuck on mics.
Yeah, we'll focus on the audio quality primarily. I mean, that's the main point
Oh my
of this, isn't it?
gosh.
Oh, let me tell you how important it actually is. Like, and oh man,
Very.
when a man has a vision and a purpose, it's amazing. So I didn't give a rat's bum about Nathan's audio. I'm just here experiencing the conversation. Everything is fun. Like, hey, my happy friend. Like, but guess what I did over the weekend?
Edit out
I
all the
went back
plosives.
to like show 70 something, 100 somethings, and the show
Bruh.
sounded like garbage. So
Hot-
thank
hot
Nathan for
garbage.
caring about the audio.
It sounded like hot garbage. Trust me.
Sorry, what sounded like hot garbage? A different show?
The show, your show in the
The
hundreds.
audio of the old show as compared to now. Not
Yeah,
saying
man.
the show was garbage, but the audio comparison, when you go back to like the older episodes, 100, 200, 300, whew, you
Yeah,
can
man.
tell the
That's
difference.
the good old days where I had that mic that's like $2.
Yeah, I remember that
He used
little
to say,
U-bend thing that was like a little stick of metal bent, and it had a tiny little diaphragm on the end of it.
so
Yeah.
Nathan would make points, right, about audio here and there. And I know because I do music. If it's not in the right frequency and it doesn't sit inside the beat, people don't know what it is that's making them experience pain. They just know they don't like it. So I heard him say on the show that people won't know that they just don't like the way the show sounds. They'll just not watch it. And if there are more viewers, it's because the audio is listenable. It's not, subconsciously grating on people. It's good.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a mix. So like when people balance up a mix so they can put it onto Spotify or hopefully get it into the charts, they're balancing up all of the music. So what I've learned how to do over the years of doing Flat Earth Debate is that. So who else are you going to go to? That's what audio engineers tend to do. But you guys are, by comparison, the instruments And you've got to balance up with each other. That's why it was the first thing I asked in the chat this morning. It's like, is everybody balanced up with each other? Now, no offense to someone like Bev, but Bev doesn't give it enough consideration. And obviously I want people like Bev, and indeed Jeran, as much as it grates me to say it, to be successful in their endeavours when it comes to this subject. And that is a big turn-off. So for Bev, he often, presumably because he's not monitoring himself, doesn't realise that he's 50 times louder than everybody else. So you hear him and you go, whoa! And you have to turn it right down, and then someone replies and you can't hear him. So you've got to turn it right back up again, and then he replies, and it's back and forth. And after about 5 minutes of it, you just go, oh, I can't listen to this anymore. And you think, I want to listen to it. I want this to be audible. The content's good. Why can't you just get the levels right? But that's true of a lot. I mean, I know you use my old show as a comparison. Grr. Couldn't you have used someone else with their crap sound rather than mine?
Just keep it real, brother.
Well, I think it's that.
Save for the plosives last night. I haven't listened to it, so was it listenable?
Very, very listenable. I'm being hyper fussy, but it's just because it was more obvious when I listened to it on the. I'm listening to it on the system now rather than on the iPad. When I listened to it earlier, I couldn't even tell that there was any plosives, if I'm honest, on the iPad. It's not really a big deal. I was almost saying it for a joke, but just as an overall experience, you just go to YouTube and stick a video on. How entertaining it is, how engaging it is. If you rate just those things, yours was right up there. Your video last night, your live stream.
Yep. All I did was just take what he said.
Yeah, but you as a character, the Quantum Eraser character, without anybody around you, you just got to shine. And your colour commentary on yourself and Jeran was just amusing. It kept me intrigued for the entirety of whatever it was. It was in excess of 3 hours, I believe. But I didn't, other than to, right at the end when I was watching it, I trimmed out a section. I went back to the bit I wanted and trimmed it out and made an advert for you. Because I'm like, my God, the time's just whizzed by. I've listened to all of this and it's hours long. So I thought, no, I've got to do an advert for this. This is well worthy of an advert.
You gotta do late nights with QE and figure and do different topics or something, man. Like it.
Yes.
You got to come out of the defending yourself against the ballers and shit, and like your personality. Aside from the fact that I don't like that it's Jeran and what's it, but like I like that. I kind of like this format. I want you to do more of it.
Yeah, it was really good. I was going to say the same thing. Like, you need to make that like at least once a month, if not more. I'd say more, but I don't know how hard that was put together.
Didn't it have like an old school feeling? It was just like, he's back to doing what he does. That's how I felt when I was watching it.
But it was like,
yeah, I shouted you out too, you and Miggy, and can you believe what it just struck me as it just pissed me right off.
Yeah.
What, Miggy? How did Miggy piss you off?
No, I brought up Miggy and Chocolate and a few people on 24/7 because I can't remember how many times that subject was brought up about, using stupid man-made devices in experiments, right? And with Witsit sitting in the hangout, listening to me deconstruct ballers with that horse shit, and he comes out and plays like it never happened, and then he's on the same bandwagon as the fucking ballers. I couldn't believe it. Right there, I'll tell you what, I almost lost it.
There's been plenty of commenters saying the same thing.
Well,
sorry, I just add this.
What he's saying is,
go on,
go
Eli.
ahead.
No, you go on.
All right. What he's saying is, I know y'all got y'all issue and stuff, but I don't think it's justified to act like we're saying you can't use man-made devices. Like that's unreasonable. I don't care like what the beef is and who's upset. It's unreasonable to act like we're saying you can't use man-made devices. Like that's crazy.
Someone who hasn't listened closely.
What? But it isn't.
What that is somebody that's listened to QE. They've watched him with the pink writing, and maybe there's been a debate going on with a fundy at the time, and the point hasn't been understood in regards to the requirement the scientific method has. That's not a reification fallacy. For,
Right.
hold on, I'm not there. Bloody hell. The requirement the scientific method has for a naturally occurring phenomenon. That would be to say that you're studying something that occurs in nature. Now, that is the bit that can't be a man-made device. If what you are studying is the light transition in a spinning dolly as you move a prism, that ain't natural. That's outside the remit of science, because science is specifically interested in cause and effect relationships in the physical and natural world. You're trying to establish what the cause is, and what the effect is what you're studying. That's the physical and natural world that you want an answer to something in regards to an occurrence. So if your occurrence is a man-made device, and QE did go over this in the live stream in whispered tones, if we've got a man-made device that we're studying as the phenomena, we already know the cause. A man made it. Now, if the phenomena that you're trying to replicate so that you can cause it by way of varying an independent variable has man-made devices in the setup, perfectly acceptable. So long as the thing you're studying isn't a man-made device. That must be a natural phenomena. So there's a conflation between you must study a natural phenomena and everything in the experiment must be natural? No. I haven't got to go out and find a naturally occurring bowl to put heat under it to boil water. That isn't the case. I don't have to find a natural heat source to get underneath the natural bowl to boil the water. I just need to see that there's water boiling in nature. That's the phenomena I'm studying. And suppose a cause of it. The apparatus, so long as it doesn't interfere with the variable that you're varying and manipulating, is almost irrelevant and absolutely, without question, required. You're going to have man-made stuff in it. Just so long as it's not the bloody phenomena.
Nathan, QE has gone over this how many times? And you have gone over
Hundreds.
this how many times?
Probably hundreds now.
Okay,
If not, maybe not hundreds.
there's no
dozens.
excuse.
Dozens of times.
So I want
Jeran went over
to
this.
say that
Jeran has went over this sort of thing in the past, and now he just forgets. So
It'd be nice if you
all of
could
these
find
guys
those things.
know exactly. They followed the flat Earth debate, and they know these arguments.
You
and
just say,
now
yeah,
they've
repeating
just-
it. Hold on. If you've got that, that would be useful to hear him employing a scientific method, empirically based argument against somebody, or using it as an example to demonstrate a proof. That would be useful, Arwin. But just asserting it at this stage, maybe he has. I'm not saying it is a baseless assertion. I'm not making the claim that you're lying. I'm just saying if you've got that and you know where to find it, that's useful.
But that's like around the time when the dielectric acceleration debate happened. They
was
did
just a month.
actually kind of come forward back then and just said,
less-
like, yeah.
It's less than a month ago that he said on his show, he was in the middle of this. He didn't know which way to go. And then when he saw Zach do an experiment that proved, well, there it is. What did he see Zach use? What's he saying there? At the same time, he's saying science doesn't prove things. He says Zach used science to prove something, which we say, no, that's not anything you see in the nature.
Well, that's why I think what I think that's why when Whitsitt expressed to me, well, look, everybody's not going to be accurate with their wording when we're all learning and we're all coming in at different levels. And sure, I think it is really just a misunderstanding mixed in with a whole bunch of pride that's going on. Because I think he knows the difference between what's valid. Well, I think he knows the difference between what's valid and what's not. I just think that because in some instances he knows that you can derive truth out of something, and then in other instances he's like, well, this science word, this science thing, it's like he mixes the difference between science and pseudoscience, and I don't understand why that is.
My mic working? Hold on a second, because he's saying, I understand that, but he's saying man-made devices. He's calling it out when he knows that don't mean nothing. It's about the natural phenomena that you observe. Okay? So in one breath he understands that, and the next breath he's saying, oh, look, they're using man-made device in the experiment? Come on.
No, I think that he thinks it's hypocritical for us to use man-made devices for science when we're calling out people for doing that, not understanding what Nathan laid out. Like, no, the phenomena.
Very well.
Wait, listen. I'm talking about Jeran, the guy that we're saying can't, like, you can't say he can think and can't think at the same time. I'm just giving a reasonable, like, explanation as to why the understanding is what it is. Like,
No, it's not
why are you telling me no?
I'll tell you why I'm telling you no, and I do with humility here too, because I respect you. QE did a show last night, which I haven't listened to yet, but Nathan did an advert for it. In that advert, Jeran is live reading something from Wiki or whatever. QE said, I'm going to go check that source. QE goes, checks that source, and Jeran put in phrase that wasn't there. QE called him out. I'd like for Jeran to find one recording where QE, Nathan, or any of us talked about the tools that you use in the scientific method the way he says the way he says is wrong, or it's you're invalid because you use tools. Nate.
Did we just lose 10?
Did I? Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, shoot, I thought it was my phone.
No, we got a
No
glitchy.
excuse.
Got a glitchy G Plus today. It's hopefully unrelated to me.
Check 1, 2.
You're back.
Hello?
Yeah,
Okay,
we got you.
So when Nathan summarized that you got to use tools in a scientific experiment, but you're not studying the tools, you're studying the phenomena. I mean, you can't get a better summary, and that's never been, in all my time here, said in a different way. So they know exactly what they're saying. What the problem is, Eli, is that they have something that's spiritual, invisible, that they need to reify. And we're saying, well, show it to us in the 3D world. Well, we can't. Okay, well, then don't say you've proven it. And that's where they're getting mad.
Okay, I would agree with you, except I would agree with you if Jeran's understanding about science has changed, but his understanding of it has been exactly where it's at for as long as I've been watching it.
What does that mean?
So what it means is he can come to conclusions fallaciously, and it's not really him being nefarious. I think there's a blurry line there.
Okay, hang
I
on.
would like to
Hang on before you go. John, let me finish that, and then you can go, please, because it was directed at me. How long has he heard this argument? How many times could he realize that, okay, maybe people use it fallaciously, but the gang at FED haven't, because they're pretty clear, concise, and repetitive of the control variables and everything else that goes in the scientific method? My goodness,
I don't
only
think
have
he
to...
watches the show. I don't think he
Okay.
ever. I don't
Hang on,
think he
let me-
knows
But he
that.
knows about the show.
I'm
He's heard it
almost done.
before.
I'm almost done, but you guys sure do sound like 10th man finishing it off. Anyway, that's not on me if he doesn't watch the show. That's not on anybody but on him. So now you're going to come on the next time and have a recording of QE and Nathan saying the opposite of what they said today. Find me one recording. You won't.
Okay.
Well, see, hold on a second, because I think Elijah's right. And if you look at it, the ball believers or the anti-flat earthers hear this stuff constantly, right? And they have the same problem. I don't think this is nefarious. I think this is just ignorance. Not to call them stupid. I just think they're ignorant of the words they're using.
Time out, please,
So
John.
you don't think Nathan went over this with Jeran?
Neil, hang on.
He didn't understand it. That's the whole problem.
Guys, why are you? That's a non sequitur. I never said nefarious. Yeah, he's ignorant if he doesn't listen
No,
to the
I
show.
was making a point and you cut that. So if it's non sequiturs, because you're making a separate point that I don't necessarily disagree with, but you keep retorting to me like you have a disagreement with what I'm saying.
No. Let me summarize. Please produce a recording, Jeran, of QE and Nathan saying something other than what Nathan summarized today. Then you will have a point. Until then, I don't know what you're doing. All I know is that when I heard the scientific method for the first time, it wasn't that hard to comprehend.
Exactly.
It was for me, but there's a bit of indoctrination / education that caused trouble in that, because I had trouble between measurements and qualifying something. So I can sympathize slightly.
Yeah, but QE broke
look, I
that all
watched
down as well.
Neil, think about it. Exactly. With the show we just watched last night, for him to speak Neil deGrasse Tyson and our name in the same breath should let you know that he doesn't understand. Not that he's being anything other than misunderstanding.
I don't know if
Or
I buy
whatever the
that.
word
I
would
don't
be.
know his motives. All I know is that the scientific method is very simple to understand. He's having problems with it. That's on him, not on me. The point I'm trying to make is not that he's nefarious. The point is to go there and read things and not read them correctly, that's on him. Then which this whole conversation that I'm keeping it on is you use man-made devices to do scientific experimentation. Well, how else are you going to do it? You're not studying the man-made device, you're studying the phenomena itself. So
Yeah,
Nathan again summarized it quite well. It's been constant. I've never seen anyone trip up on this show about that. Now, whether Jeran's up to date, watches the show, that's not the point. The point is he came out, made a claim. Science doesn't prove things. That's what he said. And then he said that Nathan and the gang here are scammers. Now, he's got to retract that because he's dead wrong on that. Totally dead wrong.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and extend what I understand to be Jeran's actual position is he believes that science doesn't definitively prove things 100% because you can prove something one day and then realize it's something else. Why he uses the example, oh, we thought it was the sun, now it's UV. So what he's saying is the problem is he doesn't understand that's why. So the reason that I responded to you in the first place, you just brought it back full circle. So it's that he thinks we're being hypocritical for using man-made devices because of his misunderstanding. Specifically, misunderstanding that we never said that you can't use man-made devices.
No, I disagree. I think, first of all, to your first statement. Well, give me a second. First of all, to your statement, UV and light is the same thing. UV light, sunlight. I mean, come on. All right. So you find out more.
We're talking
Let
about
me
his
finish.
misunderstanding. I'm just trying to lay out to you his
I'm trying to
pathway of
finish your
thinking. I'm
statement.
trying to get you to understand where he's coming from.
Eli
trying to
and Neil.
finish the
Eli
statement.
and Neil. Just let him respond. He heard you out, Eli. Just let him give his response.
Okay, back then they saw light, sunburn. Today they find there's different spectrums. It's still light, sunburn. Okay, you define it a little bit better. This still doesn't change it. Okay, so that's something you progress, but it doesn't change the effect and how it's happening. Second, I disagree. I think they need to prove ether. They can't, and they want to trash the scientific method, so we can't use that as saying, well, if you prove it, we'll believe it. Now, I'm not against
Thank you
ether.
very much.
Please hold your tongue. I'm not against ether. Ether could actually exist. I'm not saying it doesn't. It just doesn't in the physical world It's untestable. I'm not against anything. The creator can do whatever he wants. But they don't like the fact that for us to know something, the cause and effect of, the scientific method is either going to give a null or affirmation of it, of the supposition. So they want to trash the method on purpose, my opinion, so that they can get away with this invisible spiritual thing called ether. That may or may not exist.
Okay. You said you disagree. And then you led with a complete non sequitur.
Which is?
I don't get it.
Which is?
What did everything okay.
What was the non sequitur?
How does your point refute my point that Jeran has a misunderstanding?
What was the non sequitur?
Now,
Reply.
The non sequiturs you're talking about, they need to prove the ether. What the fuck does that have to do with me laying out why he misunderstands?
I thought I was pretty clear that because the scientific method cannot prove the ether, they need to trash it.
What does that have to do with me saying he misunderstands the scientific method?
Because you're going to
not even misunderstands, not even misunderstands, but he's conflating. He doesn't necessarily know what the scientific method.
No, I don't agree.
He doesn't.
You go over this with him?
He doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't, but he's obviously there's a misunderstanding.
Okay,
and you're saying no, I disagree with that. But I'm saying
I do disagree because he said he was in the middle of this until Zach did an experiment. What did exactly Zach do to get him on the ether side?
Not an experiment, which means he doesn't understand the scientific method. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Or he's picking and choosing.
Excuse me. He said Zach used the Van de Graaff generator to do an experiment. And when he saw the proof. At the same time, he's saying you can't prove things. What is going on here?
That's what Eli's saying. If I'm picking this up right.
Nah, you're right,
That
fam.
whole
Go ahead.
concept
you good.
is. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, he's right. I'm wrong. He good.
No, I don't. I'm just about to support you, bro. I'm saying the only way out of that, either he's being purposely dishonest or he genuinely does not understand the scientific method, and he genuinely does believe that what Zach was doing with his firing up his Van de Graaff and a piece of paper, he might genuinely believe that that is an experiment. And if that's the case, God help us all. Because if after 5 years in flat Earth you don't know that, that's really disappointing. If what you're doing is confusing the issue for others, that's disappointing too. But that would seem to be the crux here, like that.
No, it's an agenda.
Yes, Adam. Thank you.
That's blatantly obvious that he doesn't understand what an experiment is based on the way that they've all reacted to Riley's egg experiment, right?
Yep.
They'll be the first ones to say that's not an experiment. He didn't prove anything, even though he formulated it with a naturally observed phenomenon. He had his alternative hypothesis, his null hypothesis. He manipulated his variable, and he caused his effect. So that should just be blatantly obvious to everyone. But because they don't like the fact that, oh, he didn't mention electrostatics within his parameters of his experiment, they can't accept that. Even though he never mentioned electrostatics, he didn't try to manipulate electrostatics. What he tried to manipulate and what he said he was going to manipulate is what he manipulated. And it caused the effect. And because they don't like it, they have to shit all over it for freaking years because they can't accept it.
They're trying to twist that. Listen,
Oh, no.
let me say one thing, and I'm done. It's all about one thing. It's the ether. It doesn't agree with what their ether is, and that's it. I don't care what you say. They're not stupid.
It's not
We're
that.
trying to
But
relate
just to add to
everything
that,
back to ether. It's not necessarily because of ether, because in that regard, it's not even about ether. It's about electrostatics.
Yo, chocolate. Thank you,
True.
because you know what? I
Question.
have to just say
No.
real quick. Witsit has said that we're strawmanning him by saying that this proves the ether, and I said no, that's not true. You can hear people like me and Chocolate, and I think I said maybe Nathan specifically saying that that's not the case. This is Chocolate clearing that up right now. So it's not like the whole panel is out to get you, fam. We're just trying to figure this. We're trying to figure it out. I'm being as diplomatic as I can. I really am.
May I help you?
I'm spending a long
After
time
After
going.
Adam.
Yeah, thanks. Going through this. This is one question I've asked Witsit and the guys to try and resolve an answer to this, because it's been put to me as a half-arsed response to stuff like, well, do you deny electrostatics? No, of course I don't. Well, why aren't you controlling them in the egg experiment? And the question I've always asked them is, well, can you demonstrate how within that egg experiment you are varying the electrostatics? Could you show me how you could vary electrostatics and why adding more salt affects the electrostatics? What your prediction will be? Or do you concede that actually, as Chocolate summarized, we're only varying the density? There's certainly no electrostatic change within the egg. We don't need to worry about that, just like I don't need to worry about making sure I've controlled unicorn farts. It's not part of the setup. And unless you've got something, knowledge, that you think is varying that is going to vary it, that you've not managed to control in your experiment, then you should really be good to move on. And that is the point of contention that's been put to me. I've got to be honest, I've not had a satisfactory response as to why they feel they need to accommodate for electrostatics, and more fundamentally, how they would accommodate for electrostatics. I'm done.
Thank you.
Well, we see this.
Especially, sorry, John. Go.
I was just going to say, we see this in anti-flat earthers, right? They'll say, before challenged, that we see geometric obstruction at the horizon. That'll be their initial claim. And then when the black swan comes, they'll say it's refracted. And then when you point out the contradiction and the problem with that, they'll either attack you, or, it's just, I think it's a problem with cognition. It's not necessarily that there's never mind. I can't think of the word for it. Nefarious doesn't seem right.
There's a problem with cognition. It's leading them to their conclusions. Some people actually use their conclusions to work backwards. And it's because of that they often either strawman someone in a conversation. They often ask questions that are leading because of this. This is what all of my relationships have been like. This is a problem with cognition. I think you're right, John.
I don't know. I give
my
you
biggest
credit if that's
problem-
what you think, but I just think I don't think it's that. I think it's been gone over so many times for such a long time. I think there's an agenda behind them. I'm sorry.
It's not a problem for you, Neil. It's not a problem for you. But to someone who's not exposed to the information,
They called Nathan a scammer. Okay, that's
Me too.
number one. So I don't know where
Yeah.
you're going.
but every
Because
anti-flat
they
earther
felt
has called Nathan a
justified.
scammer.
Can I say something?
Because they felt justified unjustly. That's why they called him a
That's
scammer.
ridiculous.
That's my
I don't know why
opinion.
he's
That's my
picking up on
opinion. That might even be ridiculous, given if I were
Can
to
I say
watch
something?
a string of videos. Sure, why not?
It's relevant. Okay, so before QE came onto the scene with us and shared us the details of the scientific method and science in general, what that really is, there was kind of a move going, and it was initiated by Globebusters and team, and that was Scientism. Scientism is a lie, right? But it wasn't really directed. It was like a maneuver to literally just throw it all overboard. And it seems that QE coming onto the scene and clarifying what science really is kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in that plan. And it seems that some people just don't want to give in to that. They want to stick to the original plan of throwing it all overboard. That's what I think this is part of.
That kind of sounds like Operation
Or
Throw the Baby Baby Out with the bathwater.
Yes.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
or maybe it's deep-rooted brainwashing, the brainwashing that we've all went through. Now, a lot of us got to wake up, and some of us thought, like me, shoot, when am I right? When am I wrong? What epistemology can I go with to figure that out? How can I be as sound as possible and as true as possible? Other people don't think like that. So they use the same logic they were brainwashed with to re-brainwash themselves. That's what I think it is.
I just don't like double speak. That's my problem.
Exactly.
I don't like that you're going to say, "Oh, you guys didn't manipulate the electrostatics," and then in the same breath, Jeran going to turn around and say, "Oh, well, you don't even need to talk about the electrostatic part because that just sets down direction. Everything else is held by relativity or by density. Everything else is
That's
handled
what
by
I'm
density."
saying.
Can we make
So
this?
you just literally
One
just
second,
said
Ted. Let me just
we
hit you
shouldn't
real
have
quick.
to talk about it, right? But you're mad because we're not talking about it. That's double speak. That sounds
Right,
like
and
clown shit to me.
In one
Sorry.
breath, they claim to know what they're talking about. In another breath, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're naive to it, or don't account to malice with stupidity. How does that go? I don't buy that shit. I'm sorry.
Look, I know what Eli's doing, and I commend him for it, but it's not necessary for this argument because we got Bob saying that science proved it. Okay. We got Whitsitt saying that science does prove cause and effect, but you can't use it with the ether and he says if you reify it with magnetism, you're wrong. Then we got Jeran coming and saying the opposite of Whitsitt and Bob. And then Nathan gets called a scammer. Now, I think they ought to clean up house, get all on the same page so that we know what position they have, because right now that house is divided. Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
you said it better than me.
I think that I would pay good money, and a lot of people would pay good money to see us on the FED panel. But honestly, I've been saying definitely QE. I would love to see him actually debate somewhere. Now he's debated a lot of places. I haven't seen that lately. Chocolate just said, "Damn, listening to this video kind of made it feel like back in the day, like it was like a nostalgic feeling." I agree. I'd like to see QE elsewhere. And if people are willing to pay for that to happen, I'm willing to see if he's the champion. I would like to see the champion face the best. I'm tired of people saying specifically Whitsitt. I'm tired of Whitsitt. I'm tired of Whitsitt saying, don't tell me to hang on in the middle of what I'm saying. You
I
can
said
go
Neil.
well after I'm done. Okay, sorry.
I said Neil.
Thank you.
No, I said to Neil, not you.
No, that's what I'm saying. Thank you. My bad. My fault.
Okay, but go ahead and finish because I'll say something after you.
Just want to know why
So
we're the best.
Anyway, it's not that. I just like to see the best of the best actually have a clashing of the minds. Like some people think that Whitsitt is the best of the best. I've debated alongside him. I still don't mind debating alongside him. We still crush ballers, no problem. Like, I would like to see that.
I want no part of that.
I don't think that was my main point. I think I was gonna get to something else, but I totally forgot. So I'm not
All right,
gonna.
no problem. Let me get in here then. anyone on this panel could do what you just said that you wanted QE to do. All we got to do is play the recordings of Bob, Whitsitt, and Jeran and hit stop after the recordings. We're saying, get your house together. That's it. No one needs
That's
to
non
debate
sequitur
that.
again.
No,
Eli,
it's
he
That's a
not.
came on
non
the
sequitur
show.
again.
He
Yeah,
Eli,
came on
I said I
Nathan's
want to
show.
see them debate. You're saying no,
No,
you don't want to see them
no,
debate.
no,
Just play
no,
the tape.
no.
No, fam.
What?
Yes, I
Hold
do
on.
want to see them
Hang
debate.
on,
What the
hang on.
fuck?
Eli, that's not fair. I was talking about the division in their own house. Then you
That's why it's
just
non sequitur. I
let,
wasn't
Eli, let me
responding to you.
finish. Let me finish. When I said that there's a division in their house, rather than comment on that, you went to your point. I'm bringing it back to my point. And I want, I forget it.
Eli wants
I
to
was
see
going
a
to bring those
massacre.
points together because if to have a debate, you need a point of contention to debate upon. And before I could back QE debating anyone on a point of contention, they would have to agree upon their point of contention. And right now, I don't see that.
Listen, fam, that's a weaselly way of saying, yo, this kid has got glasses, this kid's got braces. I do not want to see 6-foot Eli fight him. Then there's the other guy in the back, my man Chocolate, saying, fuck that. This dude just spit in his face and said something about his mom's. He gotta knock him out. I don't get, yo, fam, I want to see the debate. I don't give a fuck what y'all talking about. That's
Debate
enough
a
swearing.
retard?
Enough
Really?
swearing. The ghetto references I can deal with. The swearing. Come on.
All right, I'll stop cursing.
Wait
Look,
a second. Wasn't he? Hold on. Let me say something. Wasn't he just on the show recently debating with Nathan? You want to see that again? Really? I don't.
Okay,
When they
fine. Then don't.
when they stop debating themselves, then I agree with Eli.
I don't know.
They
I'm
don't
good
have
on
to.
all them cats. I get 4-page.
Why would
letters,
I?
DMs,
Why would I take a win? Sorry, Chocolate,
talking
but let me
about?
get this in. Let me get this
Yeah,
in,
go ahead.
Chocolate.
Hold on.
Why would
Eli's in the middle of
Chocolate's
saying
on-
something though, 10th. Hold on. Just go ahead, Eli. Just finish your thought.
That
that
was
was
me,
Chocolate.
actually.
Oh, is it chocolate? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm just good on all of that because I get like 4-page letter DMs talking about how I'm a scammer. Everybody I'm with is a scammer. So like, I really could give a shit about any of this, about these cats. Sorry, Eli.
All right.
You know, I love you, brother, but yeah, those cats kind of play themselves. So I'm good.
I respect it. I
Let me-
respect it.
Bro,
Go ahead.
I should send you the screenshots of this DM, bro. It's crazy. You're gonna be like, bruh. Anyway, go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead, 10th.
Okay, let me restructure what Eli was saying a little bit more to context with Eli's permission here. Someone on the other side is calling Chocolate this and his mother that. Chocolate's ready to put on the gloves and get after, which every man would. But Chocolate realizes within their own camp, they're fighting. You shouldn't have said that. It's this. And Chocolate says, well, why should I fight? They're fighting themselves. This is more enjoyable. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay, that's your preference or whatever.
Well, that's not my rabbit. It's what they said. Bob said science proves
All right.
ether. Jeran says science doesn't prove anything. I want to see that fight.
Okay, so do I.
Okay,
Sure.
perfect. Why should Chocolate go in there when someone's already doing it?
Why should I not be able to see the debate I want to see as well as the debate you want to see?
Well,
as
you
well
could.
as
I'll tell
as
you
well as
You
as
could,
well
but
as well as the points being addressed. Like why can't I want all of those things? I keep
You
saying it's
could.
non sequitur. Why can't we have okay, so if I can stop saying no but when you address
refractive
me.
curvature said they have to have a point that they all contend on. They're divided.
SQE. SQE and ask Nathan if they want to do it.
Hang on, go refractive curvature. You were about to say it.
I was about to say I will not back Elmer Fudd getting into the ring with a mind like QE. That's just not going to happen.
You know why I'm on fire. You know why I'm on fire. I'm
I
out
don't know why.
I'm out in these streets. Okay, it can't be Eli defending a method while everyone thinks while everyone thinks it's about sides and people and feelings, and Eli is like, hey, actually, what about the argument? Hey, what all of the things that people listen, people are saying that we're not saying everything that we are saying. That's annoying, bro. Like, I can't be the only one out because I'm not you, so I can't defend you. I've been telling y'all to come out in these streets with me, and maybe some of this misunderstand because it's leaking into the community. I know that everyone doesn't care about that, but don't fault me for caring about that.
Hold on
You
a
can
second.
do you, you can do you, and I'm trying to do me. And all I'm saying is
No, you're
that
trying to make us do you. That's what you're saying, Eli. You're doing you and you want us to do you. You sound like me 2 years ago, Eli. You're better than that. Stick with proven flat earth and let these guys drown because they're drowning.
it's not, I get what you're saying, Neil. I know what I used to tell you, but guess what? That was when I was on a personal journey of discovery of what is actually going on. Yes, I knew that the earth was flat, but I was still having debates in the Discord circuits and all of that, and I was still trying to figure out what is going on. Why is there opposition? What can make the communication better? And I've realized and I've learned that if there's a miscommunication and you can do something about it, you should. Because if you don't, it could turn into a web of ugliness. And that's exactly what this has done. And I'm sure people that don't really understand the science and don't really know what's going on, and maybe they're the kinds of people that pick sides and people that are latching on to the feeling portion of it. But that's who I'm speaking to.
Okay, let me ask you a
Because
fast
they
question.
need to understand that.
Let me ask you a fast question.
Don't get it twisted. We're still human too. We're not don't start looking at us like we're the CIA. I'm not going to start looking at them like they're the CIA, even though I might think that some of that might be true. I really think that the people in the middle, the actual people, deserve to see good discussions go on.
You were doing
Eli,
really, really
Eli,
well.
let me ask you a question.
Well, you can. I just want to say you were doing really well, Eli, until you said, I do actually think that, though. Up until that point, you were doing really well.
Yeah, you answered my question. I
do a
what
little
side
bit
do you
like
stand on?
I'm
Hold
human.
on. Neil's going to rump us
like...
indefinitely. He's pulling an Arwin. Go ahead, Neil.
I just want to know where you stand, Eli. I want to stand. Want to know where you stand. Do you think that what QE is promoting or putting out is the scientific method and is the way, or do you think that these people have a course? They have a
First
point.
of all,
Because I don't see any of their points.
First of all, that sounded mad religious. First of all, it's just a method that I understand is valid, and I know what it's useful for. I don't think that they understand that. I think that QE has done an excellent job at putting out all of the requisite information. Okay, I do. And I know that's gonna burn a lot of people out there, but I honestly do. You can't tell me. You can't tell me that you can. Look, you can't tell me that you can go back to the old shows. Because at the end of the day, you go back and you're like, nah, fam. They've been telling me my peoples are liars, and I'm like, I don't necessarily see QE. We're not friends. I know that, but I respect you. And I learn from you. And
Eli,
I just think, it's
when
like
you're done.
when you wanna make a good point, and sometimes it's hard to get there, and you might get there at the end, but somebody clips it before then. It's like shooting an air ball.
Eli,
I wish I could have clipped more.
hang on, Neil, please. Eli,
This is the
there-
ridiculousness that people don't like. Like you're contributing to people's confusion and people distrust and lack of like
That's their problem.
in us. But you're helping
Neil,
by
sometimes you
doing.
just gotta relax, Neil. Not like every 2 seconds. I mean, I love you, bro, but come on. Sometimes you're like Tourette's, man. Relax.
Okay, I'm getting
Yeah, I'm
Tourette's.
gonna listen back to this. And I'm gonna hear how much I talk. I'm gonna time it, and I'm gonna see because I don't hear myself that
You
much.
do that.
Eli,
It's not so much the timing, is it? It's more not the volume of time, just the timing, Neil.
Go ahead, agree with him, Adam.
But I know what I wanted to agree with you.
Because I'm confused. I don't know where Eli is.
check
You
one,
know
two.
what?
It's not
Yo,
the
you
amount
know
of
where
time you're
you
talking,
know where I'm
the
at.
moments you talk.
Check
You know
one,
where
two.
like, this is that it's unreasonable and unjustifiable for you to not know where I'm at based on my character, not how I feel about people. How dare you?
What you're saying, you're confusing the shit out of me. I can be honest with
Because
you.
you're dumb. That's why.
Okay. That's
Oh,
how you
now.
feel.
Hold on a sec.
That's how you feel.
Hold on.
But Adam called Brian a plum, so I guess you calling me dumb is okay. But you sound like you're fucking sticking up for Jeran. I'm sorry.
Enough swearing.
You're a
Because I'm
fanboy.
sticking up where it needs to be stuck up for.
He's not
Okay,
sticking up for
can
him.
I
He's
get in
trying.
first?
Hold on.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Can I get in
There was
first?
Hold on,
there
guys.
was
Stop
a-
a second.
there
Hold on.
Okay.
What he's trying to do is take an empathic standpoint, which is to put himself in the shoes of Jeran and try and verbalize the mental gymnastics that he's going through to dissolve any notions of malice. And I appreciate that. I think that's the right thing to do, rather than saying it's just done in Kruger, it's Hamlin's razor, and then move on with dissection. Yeah, this is one of our own. Why wouldn't we take the time to have a bit of empathy? That's all that Eli's doing, but he's getting his head bitten off for it. Well, I'm not in a position to offer that empathy when I'm being called a scammer. Eli is. I appreciate it. I think he should be allowed to offer that empathy and try and rationalize how he's come to this thought process. That's all he's trying to do. Eli, that is.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I got the sentiment from Eli. Blessed are the peacemakers. And I wish there were more peacemakers. But here's the point. Eli, direct question. Does truth divide?
Of course it does.
Okay. We're in a situation where we want to think the best of somebody when something happens. But if truth divides, and there's a chasm between the lie and the truth, and since, the 9/11 and all these truthers coming, wanting truth, okay, well, let's see. How bad do you want truth? Well, if you want truth bad enough, it's exclusive, not inclusive. So, since truth divides, what's happening here? We're trying to ascertain, is there a reason why the other side says this, this, and the other? When in all actuality, there's enough evidence from their own lips as to what's going on here. It wasn't but just 4 years ago that Nathan explained the scientific method. And prior to that, QE posted a show, 321, I believe, where Nathan expressed the scientific method. What show are we on, Nathan? What's today's show?
Objection.
Let me finish. What's today's show, Nathan?
1738, I believe.
I can't count, so I couldn't tell you.
1738.
That is exactly Fetty Wap's record label. That's crazy.
Okay, QE.
I had to have a laugh because I'm tearing up right now, guys. I got to be honest. Go ahead.
I'm on Eli's side more than he knows.
Me too.
Thank you. Show 321, QE posted in the, I don't know where, Master D or War Room, but I listened to it. Nathan's going through the scientific method, 321. All the way to 4 years ago, all the way to today. The contradiction, since truth divides, is Bob says science proves things, Whitsitt says science proves things, and Jeran, who called Nathan a scammer, says science doesn't prove things while citing Zach's experiment that proves things. That's the problem. Keep it there. I'm not into anything else but that. That is so dividing of that group that Whitsitt and Bob should take Jeran aside and say, dude, what are you doing? That's what's got to happen next, not us trying to figure out what has to happen next.
Yeah, but they tried.
Well, hold on. Let me
didn't
voice
go
my
through.
objection.
So did QE.
Hold on, let's hear it, John.
Well, there was a dichotomy put forth with truth and lies. It's actually truth and false, true and false. So you can be false without lying. And I think that's the boat that most of the people we speak to are in. I don't think that they have anything to gain that I can see from being incorrect. No, there's not to say that there aren't people that do benefit from them being incorrect, but I don't see them as benefiting from it.
John, I'm not
And
That
accusing
man,
that.
that man is a regular man. Like,
Right, that's
I know a wolf when I see one. Like,
Yeah.
I know that you can't take my judgment as absolute. I get that. I'm just saying
well,
that I've been
I'm not
around
trying to
him.
take I'm not
Is
trying
that
to take your judgment as absolute. I'm just saying that, they can be wrong without being liars. And
Agreed.
believe you me, I want to contextualize this with the idea that Nathan is being called a scammer for
I agree with you.
stating the obvious is irritating as all get out.
That's my whole point too.
John,
But
John, let me
Yeah,
challenge
everyone,
what you
there's four
said.
people interrupting John. He's halfway through his point.
So he was done.
Not at all.
Well,
He's in the
I'm
middle of the
just-
sentence. Just start third of the way through again, John. Half of that got rumpus.
It irritates me that Nathan was called a scammer. That does irritate me, and I want to attack back. That's the natural reaction when you see someone that you care about and respect being attacked. It's just human, and I'm ashamed of myself for a lot of the things I've said to people in reaction because I probably just made the problem worse. But they're wrong. It's not a matter of whether they're lying. They're just wrong about Nathan, and they're wrong about the things they say. So we don't have to put it through the lens of them lying. We can just point out how wrong they are.
May I comment to John?
I agree with that.
John, can someone tell the truth? The answer is yes. Can someone tell a lie? The answer is yes. You've decided to pick on the group of people who were lied to, who are spreading something that they don't know that they're actually lying. So you call it false. So let's get it straight. There are liars and there are truth tellers, and there's everything in between, because you can get caught up in a situation where you're defending the liar, but you didn't know he was lying. You find out later he was lying.
Well,
So-
I would rather be in the position to defend a liar as to destroy the livelihood of someone who was just wrong.
Again,
But
I'm not
that's not
going
even accurate. He's not
Oh
lying.
my
They're
gosh.
not
Look,
lying.
there's a
I know
difference
they're not.
between a liar and a truth teller. End of story, period. Now, if you want to talk about the in-betweens, there's a whole host of them. I was making a point that there's a difference, and it's obvious. People lie. Now, do all people lie? No. Do people spread lies and not know their lies? Yes, all the time. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about a person who just read from Wikipedia and inserted words that weren't there.
So is he lying when he called Nathan a scammer?
What is that?
Okay, look. Okay,
Hang
look. And
hang,
see.
hang on.
Go
I'm not
ahead.
done.
Go ahead.
And John, refracted curvature, said that's fraud. When QE said, what's a word that describes that? That's fraud. So is fraud lying? Is fraud misrepresentation? I don't care about the motive.
Okay, well,
Okay,
let me
well,
just
I'm
go ahead
not
and
in-
concede.
I'm
Let me
in-
go ahead and
no,
concede to that.
don't
that- see, well,
don't
no, I
concede.
need to concede. I do need to concede because I was wrong. I should have never said it was fraud. What it is it's just ignorance and Maybe it is fraud. I don't know. I really don't.
That's where I'm at. I'm in the same boat with you, except we don't know.
Well, okay.
He's labeling them as the same. The problem is when you take that line of reasoning, guess what? You become the same person that they've become. And I'll tell you why. Because when he looks me in my eyes and he tells me that you're a liar, and he means it just like you do, either you're both telling the truth, which is a contradiction, or John refractive curvature is right. Your
No.
reasoning is wrong.
No. You don't just make a claim that someone's a scammer or a fraud. You cite it with evidence. So I was going to now refer to QE, who was the first to cite it and say this is fraud in specific examples, which were, here's a citation in a, I've forgotten the term QE used for it, is scroll down the headlines. Headline scroll, that was it. His wiki headline scroll. Well, in that, he reads off a passage from a citation in wiki and adds on, but science doesn't prove anything, to the citation. So he added it, but then when QE went and looked at what it actually said, it makes specific reference to empirical evidence and the scientific method. So contrary to what he's, I would call, lying about to support his claims I'm a scammer. So he's lied about what the inference is in that citation to bolster his claims of me being a scammer when I say science proves. Again, in quotes, not a reification fallacy. I infer the use of the method and have disclaimed it on many times, on many occasions. In any event, that was first labelled quote-unquote fraud, as that's the subject discussion point now, by QE. So if he's around, if he hasn't disappeared for breakfast, maybe he can elaborate on his reasoning behind using that word. Also, as he's not around, when Arwin earlier described the year before QE came on the scene, taught us all what the scientific method actually was and the hijacking of science when pseudoscience proclamations are made, well, that's the year 1 BQE, before Quantum Eraser.
Yes.
BQE, that's an expressway. And anyway, hold on. I'm sorry. This is so obvious to me. I'm surprised that there's so much misunderstanding. It's obvious what's going on.
I'm surprised too.
Well,
But
also,
it's either that it's at a blistering level of shock and surprise, or I would have to look at my family members the same way. On a technical level, everything Nathan said is exactly right. I can't deny it.
but hold on.
See, treating my friends and family that way.
Yeah, but hold on. Are your friends and family doing a wiki parroting scroll through the headlines and then claiming you're a scammer?
There are many ways to do the same thing, basically.
Nathan, if I could respond to this, every one of us knows there are acquaintances of ours that are not to be hung around. You don't want to be with them. And there's reasons for that each of us can give. I'll give mine. I know there are people who are money motivated within my family and extended family. I don't hang around them because I already know what they're all about. I know people, acquaintances, and friends, all the way from grade school to now, and I was one of them. I used to lie a lot. I'm a reformed liar. So I know when someone's lying because I used to do it. And so when someone's lying to me over and over, they're not my friend anymore because I can't trust them. Truth divides. End of story. It always causes division. Now, here's the thing. Do we want peace? Do we want that known liar, notice the key word known liar, to be reformed and change their ways? Of course we do. So we become peacemakers and say, dude, you can't do that because you're dividing yourself from people who have ethics in life, okay? And all you're about is the money and what you can get out of every relationship. Now, if someone's been lied to, I don't talk to them that way. I say, wait a minute. What makes you think gravity's a force? How do you know you weren't lied to? Well, they taught me in school. I go, if you found out you were spreading a lie, what would you do? Well, I'd stop. I said, well, then let's look into gravity and find out if it's a lie or not. Fair enough? You see, that's how you fix it. You find out where they are as a human being, because that's the crevasse between a known liar and a known truth teller, is that in between. And there's a lot of people there, and you just challenge them. Are you interested in the truth? Can we look into it? Because you're spreading lies. I'm not saying you're a liar, but you're spreading lies when you talk about spinning Earth and gravity. Well, do you want to spread lies or not?
Yeah, the part that I'm having trouble getting past is him adding words into the citation when he's supposedly reading it out as a citation. And I don't think there's, I can't do the mental gymnastics necessary to say that's not fraudulent, because it's wrong. You should not do that, especially if he's supposed to, he claims that there's sides to be had in this, and that there's some side that you have to be on. Why would you do? I just can't do the mental gymnastics around that.
Well, now that
That's
point's
just
come
what I
around
do.
again. QE, are you about?
You have a
Are you there,
belief.
QE? No. We'll come back
Before
to
we
it.
go,
Yeah, please go through
is
it
there a
again.
chance? I've just been listening to this, guys, and I see what we're arguing about. I've had correspondence between me and you saw the guy, Dave Mannon. So, if you permit me, I'll just read you the text between the two. And this, we're in one camp, they're in another, but there are lots of people out there that aren't in either of these camps. And
Sorry, who's the
I got-
person? What's the context of the person?
So Dave Mannon. So the text should give you the context. But you saw Dave. He was the one when I went to Birmingham, was doing the street chats. He was one of the guys that mentioned ether from his world viewpoint. But a fellow
Topless
flat
guy.
earther,
Topless guy.
Dave. Do you know Trinity 4?
Yeah, topless
Dave
guy.
Mannon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just quickly just read to like outside of these main entrenchments. I think how it's being perceived. So, hope you're good, brother. Seems some bits of storm raging in the camps. It's unfortunate. As you know, I'm an ether guy. But then again, there's plenty I don't get. So I want to be neutral despite having an alternative position. I mean, I don't even like the 8 inches per mile square. Then goes into some personal stuff. So I've just responded with this. All good, fella. Hope you guys are well also. I'm not sure you're getting my involvement in this ether mess. I do not deny ether. I cannot define it. I do not need to define it. I do not make a claim with regards to it. I do not use it to address any argument with regards to the heliocentric lie, the lie that joined us together. But it appears that this is no longer the issue. Nathan and his flat earth homos are scammers, myself apparently included. I don't want lines to be drawn. I respond to you in the hope you understand my position is taken from integrity and no malice. Thanks for getting that out about the ether. I hadn't heard your name mentioned in it, but aware of this schism for a couple of weeks back. Not attracted to the playground style of name calling that has beset this topic. The science element of the game is where he wants to stay. So that's kind of just a like brief overview. I think how other people are seeing it. A bit of light.
Thanks, Adam. I don't know why that stunned everyone to silence, Adam.
Oh, interesting. More profound than I thought.
No, it's not a stunned silence.
I was busy doing something. I can't wait to
contemplating.
answer.
I've been talking a lot, so I just stopped talking because I made my point. So someone else speak.
Well, my point within all that is, I think people from the outside aren't necessarily even seeing why lines are being drawn. They can see there's a Ferrari going off, and I think these stuff like QE stuff last night, even though and didn't get to see it, I'm sure will be of value in clarifying what the argument is. And the most important thing for me, the message for me to get over to my peers in this flat earth community is, as I said, there's no malice in this. I've not got an axe to grind. I don't want to accuse people of other things, anything insult-wise or their integrity, yeah? But I do need to stand by mine. And I need to stand behind the things that have taken the globe lie apart. And that's why I've stood there. And that's why, as painful as it is, I will take a side in this argument, not against individuals, but against the arguments they present. I think we all have to do that. And I think just getting that message out, that clarity that this isn't, it might be for some people, Neil, yeah, that there's a personal side to this. But the reality is, I wouldn't be fighting a personal side battle. The only reason I'm standing up is this is the strength that we have to take the ball on. And we shouldn't, for our own personal beliefs, be diluting that beautiful tool we've got to take the ball on. It's a little petty in squabble, really. But to me, it's fundamental that we defend this position in terms of what science does or doesn't do. That's what's worth playing out in the arena to me. And hopefully the general folk that are listening recognise that point, that there's, as flat earth homos are making, yeah, that's what we're defending. We're not trying to attack. We will have to defend if we're personally attacked, like with the scamming claims and stuff like that. But for me, I'm standing up, and I'm happy for people to see me on one side, not against any one individual, but against an argument, and more importantly, for the method of science, that we recognise it and how useful a tool it is for us in the battle against heliocentrism.
Adam, that's very eloquent. I agree with you 100%. I'm sure most of the panel will agree with that too. But as you recall, Nathan, in a quicker, shorter way, almost said the same thing without saying all those words. He says, look, I just want him to retract calling me a scammer. I'm not a scammer. I mean, he can keep his views. He can do any of that. He can have his own opinion. They can do whatever. And Nathan wasn't sacrificing the scientific method or anything there when he kept it that short. He just said where Jeran was wrong was accusing him of being a scammer. And that is, it got to be the argument that we are upset about. I don't hate Jeran.
Well, I'm in a little bit of a logical conundrum because I'm always trying to argue for ignorance over malice. But when you read a citation and you add words in to claim someone's a scammer, I don't know anything else to call that but fraudulent. That's got me.
I want to hear what it was.
Does.
Can I hear that again?
A baller did do that. So Anthony Riley caught, just by pure coincidence, there was a baller reading out a citation, again, from Wiki, and he added on an extra sentence to support his claim. Just by chance, Anthony Riley happened to have the citation in front of him as he read it, and he called him on it instantly and went, "The citation doesn't say that, you've just added that last bit." Stunned silence then ensued.
Yeah, that's the thing. That was a fraudulent person. That was an individual being fraudulent demonstrably. That's
why
no
I
other
picked
way
that
to
bit.
call it.
For all of QE's, I watched all of QE's stream, all in excess of 3 hours of it, and the bit that I thought was the most hard-hitting was that bit. Because of exactly that, it reminded me of when it happened in the moment, and Anthony Riley called it out. And fraudulent is the correct word. As much as you guys have been debating it, it was correct when QE used it, it's been correct when John used it, it's correct when I put it in the thumbnail and title. That's what it is. Because the citation, more egregious is the fact that the citation completely contradicts the addition that he made.
Yeah, but it's heartbreaking because I don't like attributing to malice things that I can, you know what I mean? And that's
Hamlin's razor
really
is what you're
heartbreaking.
talking about.
Yeah.
And I've responded to that
Yes.
in many comments when people are like, I was going to add it earlier when you were saying about CIA shills. It's like, no, don't suddenly expand out your attribution of malice to employment by some government agency because the person's just ignorant. Just accept it for what it is. And in terms of this discussion and the rift it's causing, it already caused it 4 years ago when this exact same thing happened on Globebusters. But this is the same exact sword cutting both ways. It can slice through Globers when they claim they've got science they haven't got, and it cuts through Flat Earthers no different when they claim they've got science that they haven't. That's all that's happening here.
It was kind of crucial that what Arwen said earlier, that before QE got here and went over again what the scientific method was, there was this push of what they called scientism, which was kind of what I iterated afterwards as kind of like the just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? It almost seemed, and that's what I do remember, that like getting into this genre of topic, that science was this evil thing that's been used to con us all into thinking we live on a magical spinning water ball flying around in a vacuum, right? Until obviously we had to distinguish between science and pseudoscience. And then that word scientism kind of just didn't mean anything. It was just like, yeah, okay, I don't know what that is, right? Because there's science and there's pseudoscience. And I think maybe some people really wanted to stick with scientism. Just everything that's labeled science is now false, because now we know we don't live on a magical spinning water ball. And I think that's kind of dangerous, because there are things that you can use this method to establish cause and effect. That's not a new concept. So
Chocolate.
yeah,
Right, but it
change
wasn't
the-
thought of
change-
as that
hang on,
at all.
Arwen.
It was the preponderance of knowledge still back then. That's what it was to us. Body of science, the body
Did
of
you not hear
knowledge. We didn't
chocolate?
know a method. Sorry.
Did you not hear me say chocolate?
It was kind of addressing my point, so I was.
yeah.
But you did.
obliged to-
So you did hear me say chocolate.
I mean, I did address what he was saying, so I get it. But go ahead, Tim.
Right, but if he had said chocolate, I would have shut up.
Anyway,
Just that-
Go ahead.
yeah, it just happens a lot. That's all. All right. The word conspiracy. Is there such a thing as a conspiracy? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. How is it being bantied around these days?
That anytime you don't agree with somebody's certain point, you are a conspiracy, quote unquote, theorist.
Yeah. So now let's go to your point, science and pseudoscience and scientism. So the whole point is you come out with a truth about your government or something. You've been watching YouTube conspiracy videos, pre-programmed, conditioned spiel, just talking without any proof, but just spreading lies, but they don't know they're spreading lies. You say, wait a minute, so the word conspiracy is all phony all the time. It's never true. It's always some conspiracy theory that someone, I mean, this is what's happening with the science and pseudoscience. So they're banting around this word science all the time. That it makes your car tire last longer, to your clothes lasting longer. And we're saying, wait a minute, that has nothing to do with cause and effect. In fact, there's a method for that. And so what do? Well, in this subject matter, they want to treat science as conspiracy theorists. All false. Which is ridiculous, because there are true conspiracies, just like there's true science.
Well, it's just a weaponization of the word, right? Because that's what that word in particular, conspiracy theorist, that was like a weaponization of that. Used that, we will label anybody who doesn't agree with our narrative as that, and that automatically makes them, wrong, and should just be discounted altogether, right? But you and I could conspire to, I don't know, throw somebody a birthday party, right? Now, is that a conspiracy? Well, yeah, we're plotting a birthday party that we're not telling anybody for somebody, right? But you take that and you weaponize it into something that it could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
When the museum,
That's
Same
why.
thing with the word science.
when the museum in Europe studied the rock from the moon and found it was petrified wood, what happened?
I think they
Nothing.
conspired to keep that very hush hush.
Arwen
They
had
just
it.
move
Nothing.
on and just put it in a museum or something. I think they put it in a safe. No, nobody can see it now.
Wait, did they conspire to keep it hush hush? And if they did, how did you hear about it?
Because it's like it was in the Netherlands, actually.
Right, but how did you hear about it if it was conspired to be kept hush hush?
Well, the initial.
Hold on, let's see. I want to hear Arwen's answer. Hold on.
No,
Hold on,
hush,
hold on.
hush.
I want to hear Arwen's answer.
Verbally,
Go ahead,
nobody could
Arwen.
see it.
Maybe repeat the question, John, because it got rumpus and then Arwen didn't actually give an answer. How do you know then if it's been kept hush hush is the question, Arwen?
Yeah, it was. I didn't mean hush, 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 as in verbally. I meant it was just kept from sight. Was put in a box. Nobody can see it. I mean, the story leaked out. It was on the news and everything. So
The news, you say? Is the news hush hush?
no. I already explained that. Wasn't you just couldn't see it? Okay, hush, hush might have not been the right expression. I don't know.
Well, anyway, yeah. So to the whole point about scientism, yeah, that's exactly the point where um, I had to step out and say, "Fam, you're not gonna tell me that heat is not the cause of water boiling." And he's like, "Well, you had to put it in a way that people understand." And I was like, "Fam, everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say heat causes water to boil." So at this point, it like it was like focused on this science doesn't prove things 100%, or some of the things that FED quote unquote is called for inaccuracies and maybe lies and this, that, and the third. And I found that annoying because I was like, well, as I'm here speaking now, and as the people need to know that actually whatever you're talking about is irrelevant to the fact that there's a method that we use. It's the scientific method, and it's used to study the natural world. You make a supposition or guess as to what's causing a natural phenomena, and then you test that supposition, and it's either valid or invalid. And if you use it in any capacity outside of that, it's labeled pseudoscience. So even if you're
And even if
arguing against people that you think are atomists or materialists, listen, the method is good for what the method is good for. That doesn't make anyone a materialist. That means you use a method for what it's used for. That doesn't mean you can't do what you want to do, whatever that may be. But if you're going to be making arguments, they better well not include logical fallacies. That's all.
Eli, what was the independent variable in heat causing water to boil?
Heat.
Is there more than one independent variable?
Well, heat comes in a lot of forms.
No, in that experiment with the heat, whatever heat you use, is there more than one, or are they just using one form?
One form.
Okay, so not two variables, not three variables, not what else could cause it at sea level to cause water to boil at 100 degrees Celsius, but heat when it was adjusted from low to high, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that proved it.
I think what they're.
But John, now I'm coming to you. You said pressure can cause something to boil at one time, right, John?
Right. That's the difference between a hypothesis to show the cause of an effect and the construction of a theory to combine those hypotheses into
Okay. No, no. My point is, wouldn't the independent variable in your hypothesis of pressure be pressure?
Yes.
Thank you. What's the problem? It proved both. But to
Yeah,
look
that's
at
exactly. Thank you for helping me with my point, and I don't mean that in any.
No, I got you.
I because that's exactly my point. That's exactly what
man.
I
Nah.
elucidated. I'm like, yo, okay, so the method is still good then, because you're
Nah,
describing
man, because you don't know all the
manipulating an independent
parameters,
variable.
man.
I know that's what it's, and
Fuck
I'm
outta
like,
here
nah,
with that
that's not
shit.
what you just detailed though. I feel what you're saying, but I don't feel what you're saying, because while you're saying that, you're saying the method is valid because you just used another independent variable and you
John,
still carried on with validating a hypothesis. I don't see where the method is wrong, and that's where the conversation goes to, yeah, well, these people, I don't care at this point, as long as you people know that the scientific method is valid for what it's valid for, and everybody else that's trying to confuse people with all this other rhetoric is really not necessary for the people that just care about the information.
John, let me ask you a follow-up question. At sea level, what's the air pressure?
I got these parameters, man.
What's the
It's ridiculous, man. If I manipulate a fucking egg in a glass, and I say, I'm going to throw some salt in this glass and manipulate the density, right? Oh, no, that's not actually what I did because I didn't mention electrostatics. Even though I look on the side of the bottle of the salt, it doesn't have anything about electrostatics in the fucking salt. It's ridiculous, man. I'm sorry.
It's all right. John, what's the pressure at sea level where this heating took place for water to boil at 100 Celsius?
I think it's an average of 14.7.
Okay. If you take away the
14.6.
heating element and just have 14.7 average pressure at sea level, would the water boil?
No.
Okay. So
No,
we,
just give
we,
it some
we
time,
can
man.
discount that right there.
Nah, time, bro. Just let it sit there.
Time. Okay.
Eventually, like you remember you put the seed on the desk and eventually it'll become a tree.
Okay.
Same difference.
Hang on. You said time. So time with the heat of the sun, will the water evaporate slowly like the ocean water?
I think it might, yeah.
Okay. Well, there's what happens. Doesn't boil.
Nah, electrostatics, bro.
So this is what I mean about this is why I can understand that there's a misunderstanding, because someone else that's like just some random person comes into geo. I can't remember who it was that I was talking to, and no offense to you, fam, but they were trying to say that they were trying to, what were they trying to say? They were saying something about water, something about they were trying to make a claim about water, and then it was brought up that, well, water technically, if you take the stuff out of it, doesn't conduct electricity. And the retort was that, well, if you take everything out of the water, it's no longer water. And I'm like, well, this is exactly the conclusion that a person who thinks like this would come to, and this is an exact parallel as the conversation I had previous, except now we're talking about taking shit out of water and it not being water.
We appear, Eli, to be arguing with people, and I'm not attacking anyone, but just trying to figure out the rationales of the debates we're having. We appear to be arguing with people that disagree with an atomistic viewpoint. Well, attack that viewpoint to say, no, I don't agree with it, and they put a good case together in some ways. But they then will say, yeah, but it works like this, without being able to describe any model that is even close enough to the atomistic point of view that they have such criticism for. So to get any kind of alternative explanation out of these people is the issue for me. They're very good at criticizing and very good at saying, yeah, you take all the water out of water, things like that, things that maybe don't even necessarily make sense. They're very good at critiquing. But the counter side of their retort is to say, let's say we've got ether, we've got bits and bobs, but there seems to be very little knowledge in what's holding their viewpoint together. If anything, it's just sufficient to say, no, that's false in terms of atoms, etc.
That's it. That's exactly what they're saying about us. That's what's crazy. Like, and when I say they, I'm talking about regular people who aren't on a quote unquote side. There are no sides. But they're just random people who come in and out of the discords that are part of maybe other circles, and they make their own arguments. And
Well,
that they feel like from a cursory glance, like a quick glance at FED, they seem to feel like they're projecting that feeling onto us, the same sentiment that you just gave. That's what's crazy.
Chocolate, what's the Van de Graaff generator used for?
Grind that axe.
No, it's not. It's not grinding any axe. I want to know what Chocolate's research showed him.
That's a question I've been asking Wixit this week. Yeah, I'm not attacking anyone. I'm trying my best to understand. So I'm asking questions. Yeah, and the Van de Graaff's been posited as something that reverses polarity. I've still not got a straight answer. I thought I was going to. Went to bed last night with the. I'll read it to you so I'm not misquoting anyone. So the Van de Graaff effects are exterior macro around the supposed electric field around the substance. And is it this field that defines orientation of up and down? It's the relationship between the object and the field. And matter is obviously penetrated by electrics anyway. How is it scientific to ignore this? You see, I've just asked a straight question about Austin. Can't seem to get a straight answer to pin down his theory. So is this what defines up and down? Didn't get it. So I've asked again, could you show this being varied? Is the Van de Graaff an example of this? What do you think the Van de Graaff is doing exactly? You see, instead of just giving me a straight yes or no, which would help my understanding of their position, I'm being asked another question about what I think. Everybody knows what I think. It's how look in the Van de Graaff manual. That'll tell you exactly what I think. Mine's following standard atomistic viewpoint of this particle accelerator. But these are so what do you think the Van de Graaff is doing exactly? That's literally what it does. So from my understanding, it's literally reversing the polarity of reality. Okay, the electrostatic nature of the object relative to the electrostatic nature of the medium causes the vector. Sounds familiar. I assume he's trying to make an analogy there between density and buoyancy. So I've summarized and I'll finish here. So what I think is irrelevant, is it not? So so the object versus the medium's electrostatic nature defines down appears to be what Austin's describing to me. So I said, I could still do with an explanation in this model what you say the Van de Graaff is doing, please. So like I said, from my point, I'm doing my best here to try and learn, to try and understand the essence of their claims and to try and figure out these fundamentals. This appears to be the point, though, that we are still reversing polarity in all of these things, something that I'm yet to show how, I'm yet to see with electrostatics what they're actually relating to, whether they're talking about the electrostatics of a molecule that doesn't exist in their world, or we're talking about electrostatic interactions, or if we're talking about static electricity. These terms seem to be interchangeable, non-definable, and not relevant. There are differences in those definitions. that seems to be a problem from my perspective of my understanding of the models as I try to understand what their model is claiming.
Well, I think it sums it up when I hate to use Whitsitt as an example because I don't think it's malicious. It's just ignorance that he asked me for scientific proof of the atom, and he didn't understand that at that point that was not a how why question.
He's an intellectual, though.
Well, these are the responses that are getting a little frustrating. So you ask a genuine question with genuine inquiry with regards to what they're saying, how they're explaining it, and what you get back in response is that, yeah, how is that science, bro? Yeah, respectfully, if we want to argue about that side of things, that's fine. But I'm trying to learn about yours. So, and I've said, you see, what do you think the Van de Graaff is doing exactly? It's kind of irrelevant what I think. Yeah, and if all the rebuttal I ever get when I ask you to expound on your theory is to challenge mine, we don't get very far. And if I'm being critical, that says you haven't got an answer to me. Because whenever anybody asks me a question, I'll either give you the best answer I can in relation to the question, or I'll put my hands up and say, I don't know that.
But you're not going to ask another question, right?
Well, I'm not going to go sideways, and ask something else that proves that something they believe in that may or may not be relevant, but it's kind of definitely irrelevant to me being able to explain my point. See, when I get to this is like discussing at uni, isn't it? It's like discussing with your peers academically. I'm doing it with John D right now, and there's quite a few Michael Kahns involved, and the difference in the communication and the way questions are responded to, And I'm a divvy in this room with Steph and P and that, but I'm able to ask a question and be given a straight answer, and that. Austin, I am talking to you now. That is genuinely frustrating, and if I'm being honest, from a cynical point of view, makes you less credible. Because if you can't answer the question straight and you're not prepared to say, I don't know, that's when you start to smell a rat. Is this guy just pulling my chain? Is he being honest with me? Anyway.
He kind of answered it already when he said, you can't science it, it's invisible. So he's already answered it. It's a belief. And when I asked him if I conceded to the ether, which I'm not saying there isn't one, but the way they look at it, I said, if I concede to the ether the way you postulated, basically, what's the end result? He said, free energy. And I said, well, I'm all for free energy. So go and chase it and you'll make it happen. He says, oh yeah, we're working on it. And then I said, is it divine? Is it godlike, basically? And he kind of said, well, I have my own personal opinions of that, question. And then he said that there are many people who are talking about the ether that don't know what they're talking about. So now those people will have contention with Austin because he just said they don't know what they're talking about, meaning that Austin's version is a more correct version of it. And yet Austin was very honest, and I agreed with him, had no problem. You can't science it, it's invisible. It's just a belief. Fine.
It's not a science question, though.
I agree. No, I agree with you too.
Right. What is not a scientific question, and they keep on throwing science into the mix when it does not need to be added in.
While saying that it's not science, but then it's like science is limiting like that. Well, it's not science, yes, and science is limited to the study in the physical natural world, yes, but they leave this kind of negative connotation on it when actually, no, it's used for what it's used for, but you go do you, which is basically what I heard Tenth say. If you got something to build and it helps humanity, then sure, why not? But you don't have to talk the scientific method down. Like, what's that about?
Well, Brian's Logic had a talk with him, and I don't know if he's still on, but he joined, and he said it's spiritual, which we have no problem with that. So, but it's not physical. It's not in the physical world. You can't study it. You can't touch it. And he admits to all that. So it's a belief, and there's nothing wrong with it. It might be there.
No, it's a what is question.
No, I'm not talking science. I'm not talking science. I'm talking invisible stuff. God created the invisible and the visible worlds. God knows what he did. I don't know what he did.
Air is invisible but demonstrable.
I'm not talking
So-
about air. I'm not talking about air.
Yeah, but to say ether is invisible, no, that's not a get out. That's ridiculous. We're looking for demonstrable.
What is ether?
I'm with you. That goes to what is ether, and to them it's invisible. And again, God created the invisible as well as the visible, the supernatural as well as the natural. And I don't know about that stuff that's invisible.
They're not saying
Invisible
it's
things.
invisible. They're saying it's non-manifestable.
Right.
Yep.
Supernatural.
No, supernatural. Supernatural. How could they assert that ether is supernatural when they can't even define what it is?
This is why Austin said his definition is better than the rest of the people's definition, basically. You can't, everyone's got a weird definition of it. That's my point.
For the people that think, well, it's just a language breakdown, it's like, don't confuse language with communication, because it's a communication breakdown, not a language breakdown. I don't care what language you speak. You can't say it's nothing that's something. Non-manifest is it. Well, things that are manifested are things, and this is a thing that hasn't become a thing. It's like that. You can't. There's no way to communicate that to someone that makes it. It just doesn't make sense.
Listen, if you're talking biblical and you're talking things like that, yeah, God is spirit and he's to be worshipped in spirit and truth. Are that what they're saying ether is? Because somebody did just say that. Ether is God. That's a bad claim, because God is not just a force or a power. God is a person. So they're confusing everything.
Person?
Personhood.
Perhaps.
We are
Holy
made in
Spirit is a
God's like.
person.
We're made in God's likeness and image. Obviously, God isn't physical; He's spirit. So, what's He talking about? Our minds, the way we think, we communicate, all those other factors of what a being is. The Holy Spirit. That one guy came on the show and said the Holy Spirit is ether, which is a joke, because Jesus, when he was about to depart from the earth, the disciples were frustrated and going to say, well, we spent 3 years with you and now you're leaving. And he says, don't worry, I'm going to send you the Comforter, the Holy Spirit. He shall be in you. And then you can lie to the Holy Spirit and grieve the Holy Spirit and frustrate the Holy Spirit. So it's not energy. You don't do those things to energy or force.
And I could back up God as a man too, because there'll forever be a man in heaven, the God-man Jesus Christ. But I don't want to go off on that. Kent explained it exactly the way I meant it. That's what they came in and said.
Well, that's where it's going. That's where it's leaking from. It's leaking, being one with the universe, and you being God-like, and the way you think is the way your life's going to think, and you could cause things to happen. This is that outskirt version of this, and this is where it's going to end up going to, because it's already spilling in.
Something
It sort of feels like. Sure, Brian. Well, hey, go ahead.
I'll be quick, Eli.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everybody. Good to see the show on. Yeah, something I said to Austin, and he didn't really know how to address it, really, was that if you're claiming that magnetism and electricity, etc., are all manifested via a spiritual source, which he is claiming with the ether,
then there's no point in claiming the ether is causing this or is responsible, because it's obviously not the ether. At that point, the responsibility lies with God, the creator. So what's the point in talking about ether when you might as well just go at that point? If you're going to step outside our 3D reality and step into the metaphysical, the spiritual realm, then you have to go all the way to source, which is God. What is the point in claiming otherwise, or
Well,
anything lower than God?
there is a way to approach it where you, as an atheist, can be into spiritual things and then just declare that the ether is like God, right? It's just a progressed form of God denial. That's also what the ether has been used for in Gnostic circles. So,
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, fair enough. If someone wants to say that, but they'd have to declare that. You know, he didn't declare that that was what his intentions were, or he didn't believe in God or anything like that. So it just makes no sense to me to start speaking about something as the cause of the manifestation of electricity and magnetism in our world, and this cause is outside our 3D physical world. It's in the spiritual world. Well, in that case, it's not the cause. At that point, we can't even deal with cause and effect. We must deal with source. Where does it all source from? Because at that point, it's just a product of the source being the creator, God. I don't see how you can even argue or go talk past that. For me, there'd be no point in talking about ether for that reason.
Well, I addressed this a little bit in the, natural laws themselves. Existence itself defies natural law. Because if you go by natural law, then the universe would have never existed to begin with. So, it requires the source.
no, that's only if there was no beginning. And there definitely is a beginning, because that's the antecedent to existence.
Oh, that's what I was about to say, is the second law of thermodynamics dictates there be a beginning.
Yeah, but the first law dictates that matter and energy can't be created or destroyed. But we have matter and energy, so it has to come from somewhere.
Right, but hold on, that's outside of it. Using the two ideas, or the two laws that we know, that matter and energy can't be created or destroyed by nature, and that the law of entropy, you never get to the conclusion of existence from that. You can only draw from existence itself to come to those conclusions. So you need a source.
Yeah, you need a source. It's like, but Chocolate is correct when he talks about neither matter nor energy can be created or destroyed. That is talking about within our physical realm, we have no evidence of how it can be created or destroyed. That means that it has to have been, like, it can't be created or destroyed within our physical realm, which is nature. That means it had to have been created outside of nature.
Just like information, right? Information had to come from somewhere, and just created proof itself into existence. So obviously there has to be a knower in order for us to have knowledge, or an informer for us to have information.
As long as this knower, this knowledge, this creator is not a personal God who wants to have relationship with his creation, and is just subjugated to an energy of force, the atheists glow in that. And this is the thing. You can turn the creation of God into God itself if you're going to worship the creature rather than the creator. So I haven't met an atheist or an agnostic who had a problem with me if I said God was energy or power. But the minute I said God is recording every deed you ever do, and one day you're going to stand in judgment, so how should you then live? What should you do? Should you cry out and say, if you're there, reveal yourself to me, which the Creator says you should on a daily basis so he can answer your prayer? Oh, they fight me tooth and nail on that one. As long as he's DC or AC voltage, that's fine. Because there's no fear of
The
judgment.
problem is that sentience, right?
Hold
Yeah.
on a sec. Hold on, because that's going to lead to an interesting point. So, therefore, if God will hold you accountable by the actions at which by the principles of which you live, if you accuse people of malicious intent, will God then accuse you of malicious intent?
With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!